my head, I was like, football has no future. It was just embedded in me. You were a late teenager, and at some point you said, I want to get into coaching.
I think I didn't leave any stone unturned in terms of trying to make it as a player. The whole thing was the doors were open, but there was no way of figuring out how to fund this.
So you were basically jumping from one football experience to another.
First thing I'd done was write out this 3-page letter. Whatever clubs I could find with the physical address, wrote to them. Every Premier League club, French League, Netherlands, Portugal, Spain, all of it.
The weird, ruthless pragmatism that you have. Anything football.
Sculptor called Mikhail Blazek, he was visiting India. And he said, if you're coming to Prague, you can stay in my studio. The only way you earn your thing, I'll come and do my sculpting and all of that while you're away. Next morning, I want the place clean. That was my life for about 3 months.
If you would explain what baby leagues are, how would you go about it?
I came across this whole bit of South American players, Luis Suarez, Aguero. This whole baby football thing kept coming up. Most of these kids, they're playing 40 to 50 matches a season. Like, this is what we need. Kids need to play first and then everything else can fall into place.
So for you, I think it was natural for you to go to BFC because that time BFC was the benchmark for anybody starting a club in India.
BFC, my experience at a residential setup also was quite eye-opening. But the standard of players was very different.
I want to talk to you about the problem of age cheating and age fraud.
Very easy to pull off, very easy to get away with, and the benefits far outweigh the punishment.
Through all of this, you didn't stop your education. You sent me a picture and it was your lecturer and it was nobody but Jose Mourinho. There's also one famous classmate of yours I know, Ruben Amorim. What is that course?
Course ticked so many boxes in terms of who the attendees were, who the lecturers were, and then obviously the Mourinho factor. Ruben Amorim happened to be a part of the same batch.
Did you interact with Mourinho? Richard, thanks a lot for taking time out to do this. It's taken me about 7 years to get you on a podcast, but I'm glad we're doing this. Very recently, I found out they're actually a North Indian, something I didn't know at all. So very curious, what's your origin story?
I've grown up all over the country. Like, my family is very North Indian. My dad is Anglo-Indian, but born and brought up in between Rajasthan and Gujarat. And my mom's from UP, but born and brought up in between Calcutta, Delhi and Hyderabad. So they met in university, and that's the origin, at least in terms of my roots. So,
and you were here also, right? Bangalore for a while?
Bangalore, yeah, way back, between 4th and 7th standard. I was here, and like any other kid, it was obsessed with cricket and grew up not too far from here, like near Dravid's house and Prasanna's house. And
12th main?
12th main, but we had to walk over there and like try and see if they were around and things.
Yeah,
and
this
I think
late 90s.
Late 90s. And Venkatesh Prasad was in Tipasandra and all of that.
I remember.
But yeah, I mean, like, big part of, I was also part of this TV ad, that Big Fun Bubblegum ad. I don't know if you ever saw it.
But I'll find out now.
Yeah. So it was with Mongia Jadeja and Robin Singh. I was the Big Fun Bubblegum kid who was bowling to them and got somebody out and then high fives and all of it. Like a 30-second ad that floated around.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, growing up in Bangalore was like peak of my cricket obsession. And then after that, I shifted to Chennai where football took over, because that was the only sport that was being played in school, and only way of being involved was to stay involved in football. So that was more or less the origin with the game.
Got it. So you played cricket till you were 13, 14? And then football after?
Too late, according to most countries.
Same for me, by the way. I only played cricket till I was about 12, and I started playing football because in my school, all my friends played football, and I wanted to bunk class with them. And that's how football started for me.
Actually, I had continued with cricket. Like, I remember when I'd moved to Chennai, I wanted to continue the journey and things. And Chennai has at least in the circles I was in, it had a really serious coaching culture. So ended up signing up for a couple of these camps and stuff.
Right.
And one was I wanted to be a fast bowler, then height was nowhere near pulling that off. Like, still persisted with it. So I think, the first 12 months that I was in Chennai, it was pursuing cricket as much as I could. Then progress somewhere in the whole academy circuit, and then realize there's another layer of players out there. That is, I'd moved from this thing called Dharmalingam Cricket Academy to VB Chandrasekhar, the guy who was initially involved in the IPL as well. So I went to his academy, and then it was like by far the most eye-opening experience, because suddenly these spinners and stuff are like chucking it at a speed I'd never experienced, like going from, let's say, recreational cricket to semi-serious cricket in Chennai. These guys were, I think, same age as me, but they were playing club cricket in the lower divisions.
And Chennai has a very good cricket club culture, right?
And intense, as in it's comparative. You need to be really good.
Yeah, I've heard stories of a lot of senior players from Bangalore going to Chennai and playing, because first division there back in, I don't know, 90s or 2000s was actually a 2-day game, right? Which is not the case in Bangalore. So they would go and play there. And I remember I've read stories that Rahul Dravid used to go play in Chennai first division.
I had no idea.
Because at that time he found that to be more competitive. So I've heard stories of this nature. So I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah, it was very intense.
Yeah.
And then pretty much, I think my physique and energy levels also complemented football way more than
Right.
cricket ever would. So pretty much found my way through.
So I had a concentration problem. If I was fielding and if I was not the captain, I found it very hard to stay tuned.
Ego and laziness.
Yeah, both. Exactly. I don't know from whatever. I mean, I found it very late that was an issue for me. But if I was captaining or if I was wicket keeping, which I did very briefly when I was under 14, I loved it. Or if I was in between my spells, because you're bowling every over, then you're going off, then coming back. Yeah, but there were some of these games when I started playing club cricket. I started playing club cricket at 16. So I played third division, and we would have these 50-over games, and they would make you field in the outfield because you're young. And my team was. The year I signed up, they were second division. It was a club which Anil Kumble is still the honorary president because he used to play for them in Jayanagar, in Madhavan Park. So they were second division when I signed up. When I made my debut, they were third. When I became regular, they were fourth. So the team has
Just
had
kept descending.
Yeah. So and they never changed the players. They were the same players for 20 years. So they were reaching their 40s and they were still playing.
And you were coming through. And,
So I've spent many Sundays just fielding
outfield,
for 50 hours, 50 overs, and then coming back and you'll get batting like 7
Six,
down.
seven,
Oh
okay.
my god. Yeah, because then you're just running singles.
Yeah, the batting order is more hierarchy based.
Yeah,
than
it is. It is completely hierarchy
competency based and stuff.
Absolutely. That was only in the lower divisions. Though. If you played first and second division, it was purely merit.
Yeah, because then you have to survive, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
no hiding over there.
Yeah. Well, good to know. Good to know. So football started, and then
we had this one tournament called the AIFF League, and I thought that was like the be all and end all. As in, if you're good there, then you're good in any corner of the world and things. Because you had like these international schools and kids from all over the world in that particular school coming and playing. So, and I enjoyed some success with the game. As in, again, being captain of the school team and stuff, our coach wouldn't show up for most of the sessions. So I ended up buying all these coaching books, seeing the drills, and then getting
really,
the team.
This is again what 2000s.
Yeah, 2000. So like from the time I was 15, I was like part-time coach of the team and stuff. So like getting these guys to come in to this Elliott's Beach in Chennai at like 5 a.m. and just doing these drills and all sorts and just to prepare for that one tournament. And but yeah, I mean, would get all of these coaching books, figure out what exactly can be done, how do I keep my teammates motivated and all of that. So, but yeah, that was a good sort of having my feet on both sides. And then obviously, I think our school was really small, from like kindergarten all the way up to 10th, about 220 kids. So like to shine over there and things like that, it can be a bit misleading. You tend to believe that that's your status across the board, and yeah, so that's what I mean. The introduction of the football started over there.
Right. So, at what age did you get your first coach?
We had a coach, John Sir, in the school abacus that I just told you about. So that pretty much was some sort of organized coaching exposure. That must have been around 13, 14 that came across my first coach. And before he came around, it was a school PE teacher who doubled up as a coach to just get us organized. But this guy was a existing player who came in 3 times a week and put us through our drills and all of that. So yeah, around 13, 14 was first time I had that.
Got it. Interesting. So this is, and I'm assuming you wanted to go pro in football. Somewhere that changed. And then you said coaching, because you started coaching very young.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people, now there are a lot of
now
people
there are
taking
plenty,
it up, but I don't think in your time there were many at that time even
Hardly.
thinking. Because, okay, I'm few years younger than you, and I remember being a teenager and I had to choose between cricket and football. And I remember openly telling my friends, listen, I'll come and play football for fun. I'll come. So I remember my school, we went to the ICC district, then state, and we had a chance to go for nationals. And then I said, until state I'll play because it's in Bangalore. Nationals I'm not coming because I was like, I have cricket, and I was playing cricket like at a much serious level, and a lot of my friends in the academy. I went to Sadanand Vishwanath Cricket Academy, so he was a former wicketkeeper for India. So a lot of the kids there were already playing state, so I was trying to like get in there. So that was my focus because I was convinced there's no career in football, like at my head at least. And even my dad, so my dad played a lot of football back in Kerala.
Okay.
Like I remember even till I was like 14, 15, he could do like 100 keepy uppies without letting the ball touch the floor. So he was very good ball control, good passing. He tried to teach me. I had no interest.
Only cricket.
Yeah, only played cricket. And then his weekends when sometimes he would come and play in the society or so, and it took me a while to understand that he's good. But he also told me, are you sure there's no career in this? If you really want to pursue a sport, cricket makes sense, but you know how competitive it is.
Yeah,
It's
it's
very
horrid, the
yeah, yeah. So he
journey.
was very transparent about these things. So in my head, I was like, if I'm pursuing it, I might as well do cricket. Football has no future. It was just embedded in me, and a lot of my friends found it very surprising that I said that at the age of 13, but I did. So I'm thinking from that lens, and I'm like, you were a late teenager, and at some point you said, I want to get into coaching. I can't get to grips of what was the clarity of thought you had back then.
No, one bit was that I think I didn't leave any stone unturned in terms of trying to make it as a player. So my whole deal with my parents was that they said you get done with your 10th, after that you do what you want, but just get this 10th boards out of the way. I remember that the day the last exam was written, first thing I'd done was write out this 3-page letter that I'd taken like countless copies of. Obviously, customized each of them before I took a printout and all of that. And I'd gone through the rankings 1 to 10, whatever clubs I could find with the physical address, with their email address, wrote to them and then sent out these letters. I think I'd used up half of my pocket money and actually I'd gone backwards in terms of calculating that cannot be more than a 3-page letter because that will be like $15 per whatever envelope that you have to send out and things. So, I mean, this letter made its way to every Premier League club, every club in the French league, every club in Netherlands, I think Portugal, Spain, all of it, written to every one of them. And like there's a whole stack of letters at my house also right now from the club saying that we can't really we don't have a network that exists in India. We wish you all the best and things. So whole bunch of Premier League clubs, Olympique Lyonnais sent back a letter in French. I was at my friend's place when my mom told me that somebody from Borussia Dortmund had called up saying that we got your letter, thanks, but really doesn't. We don't really have any interest in tapping into Indian talent. At this time, I was 16 and
what year was this? 2000?
2003.
Wow.
So, but yeah, those letters are around, and then emails from Ajax saying that we have our own ecosystem. There's one club in South Africa and all of that. So, like, some of them had taken time to like write out a detailed, specific letter to me. Some of them had sent the generic thing. I guess they sent to every kid looking to get their attention. But
you sent handwritten letters.
No, these were printed out. Like
but,
my handwriting
but
wouldn't have
physical
cracked
letters.
it. Yeah.
Not email.
Email, if I couldn't find it, but I think I'd sent out at least, I think, more than 100 of these letters and made sure that figure out who the person it was supposed to go to. So it was the head of youth and all of that. Like, didn't send out a generic letter. It was quite specific. And eventually, this one thing in Australia called EFI had picked up that saying that okay, come across. But during all of this, I'd also I'd gotten admission in this one particular school where I'd taken up commerce, which didn't really sit with me. And during all of that, I'd also called up this gentleman called Ashok Kumar, who's now with Gokulam Kerala. And that time he was heading the whole division at Indian Bank. They were in the NFL those days. So I told him, look, I'm really passionate about football and things. And I know you guys are in the NFL. I want to come and train with you. Like, whatever happens, just give me a chance to go in there. And he said, okay, come to the training ground tomorrow.
This as a player?
This as a player. Like, this is like about 3 weeks outside of finishing up with the 10th boards. So then he called me and the coach was VP Satyan, I think one of big names in Indian football, especially Kerala football. Right. And they allowed me to stick around for a couple of years and things. But between all of this, I was trying to like get myself overseas. And that was part of the letter as well. Like, I'm part of an elite club in India and things. There's no chance I would have played NFL, especially at the age of 16. But could hold my own in terms of the physical side of things. I don't think I was bullied off the ball. And if any time they needed to set the pace on any running drill and stuff, I was usually trusted to set the pace with the pros and all of that. So these two things are happening simultaneously and didn't tell my dad I'm leaving school. So I just stopped going, would put on the uniform and not tell him that I'm going to the training ground instead. And because I used to have these morning sessions 3 times a week at Marina Beach for fitness and all of that. Right. So I just stopped going to school and my dad caught on to it, let's say about 3 months later. And pretty much gave up. Like, there's no point in fighting me and stuff. And during this...
but you had finished 10th.
Finished 10th and this thing called EFI, is European Football Institute, one of these pay and play academy types in Melbourne. I had gotten in touch saying come across and all of that. So God knows how we put the money together, because that was the first time I ever sat on a flight, like domestic, international. Like first time I was sitting on a flight, I was going all the way to Australia. I got my passport made purely to take up this endeavor and whatnot. And that was for about 2.5 months, like living in Melbourne with this team called East Richmond Jaguars and We had the guys who was sharing the house with, the whole bunch of these 18, 19-year-olds, about 2, 3 years older than me, and had just finished up trials in England, had just finished up trials in Ireland and Scotland, and come back and were looking for the next call up, as in would it work out or not. But like some decently capable players that I was a part of. And then again, like what happened with cricket after going a level up with, let's say, the cricket academy I told you, like from Dharmalingam Academy to VV Chandrasekhar, this exact thing happened that Aussie kids were playing at a completely different level, like just couldn't cope with it. But had made up my mind that this is not the end of it. Like if I really work hard, it'll work out and whatnot. And figured out a loophole into this other school, which was very sports oriented. So you had a whole bunch of these sports, let's say, aspiring athletes as a part of it. So Deepika Palikal, Josna Chinnappa, the entire Scotch circuit was over there, and somebody had recommended that you go over there. They'll give you the freedom to manage both, and it was arts as well, like history, geography, and all of that. So that worked out. And the second year in this whole journey, like finally somebody from Czech Republic had replied. This thing called Dusan Oren Football Academy.
Right.
So they said you come across and join. We are happy to welcome you. Stay with us for 3 months. Then this other academy in Denmark had happened, and the whole thing was the doors were open, but there was no way of figuring out how to fund this.
Yeah.
So I created now. Second thing was like to create a deck. Obviously, a bunch of printouts. Went into all of the people that we knew might have the resources to support me, and went over there, explained to them, I'm the next best thing coming up in Indian football, but I was nowhere close and stuff. And it wasn't a cheap journey, and like especially from the background that we had, like even securing the flight amount and staying overseas for 3 months. But somehow the other, like this not random, but by chance, this sculptor called Mikhail Blazek, he was visiting India. He happened to have played for this club called Dukla Prague ages ago and does part-time goalkeeping coaching. And he said, if you're coming to Prague, you can stay in my studio. And the studio was in this old pre-war building in the 4th, 5th floor. And he said, the only way you earn your thing is I'll come and do my sculpting and all of that while you're away. Next morning, I want the place clean. So I had to like rake up the place and take all the stones and all of that down through the stairs and things, and just make sure that the studio is ready to go again every morning. And he'd given me a place in the loft. So that was my life for about 3 months in...
Proper grunt.
No, it was, but there's nothing else to do. As in, like morning you do that, and then you go across for training, and the whole academy had set it up. I had 2 training sessions a day with. So this Dusan Oren Academy was set up for kids who were making it as professionals, but wanted a little bit of flexibility on the academic side. So kids who were with Slavia Prague, kids who were with Motorlet, kids who were with Sparta Prague, all of them would come to this one academy, get the training session, study during the day, and then go to the clubs in the evening. So I was part of a morning session over there, and then obviously a low division club in the evenings. But I mean, just the fact that the sculptor happened to come to India took away a whole bunch of expenses off my hands, and all I had to do was like keep the place clean every day. That's how I secured about 3.5 months there. And Germany as well. My cousin was there studying. He was going back to India. So his dorm room was empty, so stayed over there. And then the Denmark thing was almost free. Like all I had to do was show up, and they took care of me for about 2 months. So
you were basically jumping from one football experience to another. How long does this whole thing take?
It was about 6 to 7 months, and Germany wasn't really... it was more of a buffer. I think I just had to stay with my cousin whose dorm room was empty. And middle of all these replies that I told you, Bayern Munich had written in saying that we can't give you a trial and stuff, but come and watch the training session. So during that time, I'd also gone across there and spent a week with Bayern Munich just watching what those kids were doing. And again, like I said, it's a completely different level I'd never seen, because it's very different from watching games on TV and then actually going and watching training sessions with some of the best players around and all of that. So it was, I think, greatly humbling also to... I thought like I had the world at my feet. Like part of that pitch deck that I told you about, it was also that I'll be earning XYZ amount by the time I'm 20, and I'll pay all of you all back and more, like back me up and things. But like after seeing all of it, so it was Czech Republic, then sometime in Germany, and then gone across to Denmark. And Denmark was a lot more, let's say, suitable challenge to be a part of.
Right. It explains a lot, because now there's a weird ruthless pragmatism that you have about anything football. Like when someone comes to you with a plan of what they want to do, be it starting some big IP or a property or a league or setting up some kind of a grand academy or an institution, whatever it might be. Anyone who comes to you with a football plan, I've noticed you very quickly give them a reality check. And now it makes sense, because unless you're somebody who's really put effort into trying everything yourself and experience that, you can't possibly be in a position to judge things. And now it explains why, because of the amount of effort you put in your, like, just in your teenage years. I mean, there's a whole say adulthood which you would have spent researching and working
Trying
on
to
different,
undo that.
yeah, or building on top of that, right? So you've done every. I mean, it's now it makes sense after knowing the other side of you, which publishes these reports on Twitter and makes these great presentation decks about India's performance across
Multiple
Asian Cup,
campaigns and all of that.
60 years of Asian Cup and stuff. It makes sense now, if connecting the dots, for me at least personally, that you've really put effort into exploring every avenue to maybe become a pro. And as a result of which, you really have understanding of pathways, you have understanding of what level of talent is accepted in these foreign environments. And hence, when people come to you with programs and flowery campaigns, I think you
stop talking now.
Exactly,
because
right? And now it makes sense as to why. Because I've always felt, because sometimes I'm still hopeful. So when someone comes and tells me, oh, we're doing this, I'm like, oh, wow. The optimist in me thinks like, this is going to change Indian football, right? But then you've been there, you've done it probably without any one of us knowing it. And hence, now this is making sense to me. So you did this as a player. And at what point, and was that all? Did you go anywhere else?
No, it was just that, and I'd come back again, like after the whole European trip had continued with Indian Bank and just training with them. Obviously, got zero competitive exposure.
But were you an official player with them or no?
No.
Okay, just training.
But training hard, like,
Right.
as in, like I would do over and above what these guys were doing. I put in extra hour and a half in the gym because I wanted to go back to Europe fitter and all of that, and like edge out everyone that was there. And what I thought was like fitness is the only sort of box to tick. There's so much more just in terms of pace of play. And even Denmark, I mean, we had guys who were with the junior Icelandic national team and just sharing the training ground with them, because that was a more intense environment in terms of the amount of coaching we got. Like then the Danish academy was more or less full-time. All these guys are staying there. We are staying with each other. And then looking at the way these guys are organizing and conducting themselves, it was quite eye-opening. So, but yeah, I mean, that was last of it. I picked up an injury due to a hyperextension of the knee, and that compelled me to take up cycling for a year.
Was that a ligament injury? Or
no idea. I didn't do the scans and things, but it felt horrible. And one of the interventions I was told to take was like just start cycling and do that every day. So I was doing like 50k every day in Chennai before school. Yeah, I finished 12th also by then. Like the whole bunch of things that were going on, but yeah, as in that was more or less conclusion on making it as a player. Like I had no idea that. I mean, it was very clear that I won't make it.
Right.
Like if the knee was okay or not.
Right.
The reality check was stark enough to let me know that the talent is just not there. Like though the work ethic, all of that is fine, but the sheer ability was just not there.
Right. So then the only way to be involved in the game was to coach? Was that the thought process?
I turned away, not like it was like a long period and things, because then pressure came in after 12th to go and do college.
Yeah.
And my dad was very keen, either I take up law or human resources, between those two. And this whole corporate scene was just not what I wanted to do. So I told him I'll go work. Like, let me start earning and doing my things. Like, in what? So I said, I'll figure it out. So then I took up a job with this event management firm, like pretty much picking up artists from the airports and making sure that they're taken care of, taking them from the hotel to the venue and then back, and whatever it is, just whatever soft skills. And they needed somebody who could talk to them, because a lot of them came from North India, like in Chennai and things. So the whole Hindi factor also helped over there. Then after that, the call center thing, I think most of us had done it at that time, as in just this tiny stint at a BPO for 4-5 months, 6 months and things. And I mean, they had done it. It barely lasted, I think, about 3 weeks in that bit. And the only, let's say, serious alternative was this movie gig that had come about. So one of my best friends, her cousin is a grip. So grip is all your camera placements. Yeah, as in if they need a shot setup, they need to set up all these whatever tracks and dollies and all of that. And the grip's job is to make sure the shot is smooth. So that was in this movie called Darjeeling Limited, which was a Wes Anderson movie. So that what really got me excited about it. And that was about 4 months in Rajasthan with Owen Wilson, Adrian Brody, Bill Murray, Angelica Houston.
Was Jack Gyllenhaal in it? No.
No.
Somebody else.
Jason Schwartzman was in it. And Natalie Portman had shown up for one of these montage shots. Irfan Khan was there. So for me, it was like a dream. Like, this is when I was 19 to have this job and things. And Uh, at the end of the shoot, it was, I was asked, do I want to continue on this line or do I want to get back into football, because that itch had grown. And what I'd figured was that possibly the best thing I could do was take up the whole coaching aspect of it. Because even when I was obsessed with cricket, I had all of these coaching books. The Art of Fast Bowling by Dennis Lilly, Learn to Play Good Cricket by Mohinder Amarnath, and I had memorized it to a T in terms of what the technique is, how do you pick up a bat, your upper hand, this, that, and swing bowling, all of it, like, had it memorized. And then that translated to football. Like I said, a lot of times our coach didn't show up, so I was buying these coaching books and figuring things out. So, and I like that aspect of it, like being in front of people and guiding them through things and getting their attention and stuff, at least at that age, was quite good. Quite good for me to realize that maybe coaching could be a avenue, and then started exploring things along those lines.
Interesting. So, this is what year was it? 2000.
So I think forgot. So 2006, between 6 and 8, yeah.
Right, and that's when you could attribute your professional coaching journey starting. 2006.
As in, when I first thing what I figured was you just can't go in there and say that I know football and need to start coaching. The whole licensing aspect of it was there.
Okay, how did you find out this?
Which?
The licensing bit, because I don't know if all coaches in India at that time had any licenses.
So VP Satyan, who had told you about, he had unfortunately committed suicide by then, and I think at the time he was amongst the first few to get either his B license or A license. At least that thing was there. This guy's qualified and he knows what he's doing, and that's why he's our head coach. So by the time I'd figured out post his movie bit in terms of what these licenses are, I don't think at the time AIFF had a website that advertised coaching courses, and they were happening way too. There's no frequency in terms of how often they took place. So the only bit in English that was accessible was the Singapore FA website. Really well done up, very clear, transparent bits of ways of getting enrolled onto a course. And at that time in India, the whole condition was you needed to have played football at Santosh Trophy level or national team level or professional level to get a spot on the course. Otherwise, the door was shut on you. So no matter how hard I tried through the Tamil Nadu Association and various other organizations, it was a complete no-go. And Singaporean FA is quite simple. You fill up a form, send through an email, send your various documents, and you get enrolled.
And take foreigners in too.
Yeah, so as in there was no restriction in terms of foreigners coming in and signing up. So.
I'm assuming here we have, right?
Yeah, but now every association also has picked up, as in the frequency of courses across Asia has picked up significantly. Right. So the requirement to go overseas is not that intense. At least within Asia, it's not that much of a requirement.
Right.
But yeah, that was the start of it, like doing the first coaching course in Singapore and things like that.
So that was Singapore level 1, whatever equivalent of that is.
So they had something known as the preliminary coaching course, which was your precursor to the C license.
Got it. Which would be D here, right?
Yeah, D equivalent.
Right.
And over there you needed to do the basics in terms of being able to pass the ball. And they had a fitness test and a skill test.
Right.
And if you don't pass it after going to Singapore, you don't get enrolled on the course.
I see.
So they had a basic minimum competency.
So you had to also be fit enough and move around unless...
it was quite easy. It wasn't that difficult. But just the fact that it's a testing ground and stuff, sense. You get far more conscious about it. But it was good, as in they tell you what exactly it was, so you could practice at home and then go there. It wasn't a surprise test of any sort. So, but yeah, I enjoyed that experience.
And then you came back to India right after that?
Yeah, so I never was based overseas. I think throughout the coaching journey as well, all of the education has happened overseas, but work has happened in India. And because of our infrequent competitive engagements, you could afford to take, let's say, more than extensive time out to commit to these courses and then come back frequently.
But is that the right environment? Like I don't know how much football happened at that time when you did your Singapore FA and came to India. How much opportunity was there to coach, right? Because I'm assuming in Western countries, anyone who coaches immediately at any age group gets about 30 games minimum as a coach, 40 games possibly.
And I don't think that time the whole pay and play model also was that evolved.
Yeah.
I'd signed up. My first job was with this academy called Mahogany, which is now FC Madras. I think Mahogany has also retained their name. And to make that coaching job work, I had to do 2-3 other jobs.
Right.
So I was working as an analyst. I'd gone to, forgot the whole journey bit, but yeah, it was like multiple jobs just to make this one bit work. But I was a student in Chowghle College. Again, this whole thing of trying to defy my dad and stuff, and again left that college within 3 months. But during those 3 months, I would just hang around at the training ground or at the gym. The gym was right next to the training ground, and would see Mahindra train, Dempo, the junior national teams coming over there and train, and then got quite friendly with Sujay Sharma, who's now with Mumbai City FC.
Right.
And that time I was also coaching the girls team at that college.
Right.
Just because there's something to do and things. So that worked out, because they had asked like, what are you up to and why exactly are you here? So I said, yeah, I'm doing this. Again, it was commerce, I think, that
Right.
the only course that I'd gotten a spot in, but stopped attending classes, just there at the training ground and watching these coaches. And guys like Derek Pereira, Arman Colas, all these guys are quite friendly in terms of just asking them like, what's the whole coaching trip like, and you guys are doing it like what? How difficult is it? So a lot of these conversations took place, and nobody sort of turned me away. Like each time wanted a quick chat and things. Players were always friendly. Like the junior national team players were always there. Because I think the age difference also wasn't much. So that's when I think I figured out that maybe this whole coaching thing might be a viable option. And Sujay had put me onto this thing called Kadamba Technologies,
Right.
which was arm of Prozone. Prozone was the first company to do this whole thing at scale, right? As in all the Premier League games and few games in the La Liga. So the feed would come to India. You had a whole bunch of these. I think there were about 200-300 devices in this place called Egmore, one part of town. The guys who had zero insight into what football looked like as a game, they were just trained in terms of this is a kick, this is a pass, this is a set piece, and they had to just log all of these in and create graphics. So it was a very manually intensive thing, and my job was on the quality control side. That is, had these guys understood what the difference between a kick and a pass is, between a foul and whatnot. So as in quality control in terms of the output going in. And due to that job, I ended up watching, let's say, 6 to 7 games a day with only ball in play, but at whatever 1.5x speed. So that was one part of it. Then I had to double up as a group fitness trainer at this gym called Atom. And only to keep the coaching career going, I had to go in the evenings and coach this, forgot what, Happy Pola, Bambula school, where these tiny kids, I think 4 or 5 years old, would come there. So that was 4 times a week. And only real coaching was at this older age group, like under 16, under 18 was the same mahogany, but on the weekends.
Right.
But only to get those, let's say, 4 hours of coaching every weekend, I had to keep this entire bit of working at Kadamba as well as the fitness trainer job going to fulfill the whole coaching side of things.
It's super hard, right? I mean, now things are slightly
easier,
better.
yeah. Not easier, but far more accessible.
So many teams, so many semi-professional teams. Even, I mean, I say semi-professional because they're not true professional in truest sense, right? So many opportunities. But to think of it back then, right? To put in that grunt work and do it, you really, really wanted to. By the sense of
you weren't really thinking of it as, let's say, grunt work or struggle and stuff. Like
because you were passionate about it, right?
It was what it was. I don't think any of my friends were thriving or especially in football or sports and stuff, and like my only reference was what the cricket boys are going through.
Right.
And they were in the thick of things, like the struggle they have.
Yeah.
Like this seemed significantly easier just in terms of the psychological toll and things like that. And yeah, like, I was getting to watch football for a living, like doing the group fitness classes, do it with them. So like the fitness side of things was taken care of. And coaching the kids in the evening was like a crazy challenge, as in it wasn't kids who wanted to play football, but it was part of the program. So you tick the box. The only motivation was the weekend training session, because everybody came there to play football, and all you do was like deliver a good training session that they felt good about and logical and all of that. So, but yeah, like never really looked at it as a struggle. I'm doing so much just for this one job and things. That was never thought. And that's where I grew up, right? Like you had your friend circle and all of it, and even that, like I think my parents left Chennai when I was between 17 and 18. So like this whole Australia trip, the Czech Republic, Germany, Denmark bit, it was all me staying by myself and putting all of this. So like that whole bit of not really having immediate family around, but just this friend circle and that transitioning into the work life, that was quite smooth. It wasn't a struggle as such.
Got it. So fast forward to when did TFA happen? Would you consider that as the biggest break, or was
not really? I think after this whole thing in Chennai that I had described, there was one bit where it was like a fraud job. Somebody had conned me into coming to Bombay. I'd given up all those 3 jobs to go to Bombay and things, and this guy said, we're going to start the best academy this is what's going to happen. We're going to be, it was called International Sports, ISM, International Sports Management Company and things. So the guy on the phone had an accent and all of that. So you got super excited that, and I told all my friends, like, I'm stepping into the big leagues and things. These guys are serious players. Even I didn't do any background check, though my dad, being from a human resources background, kept telling me that, do it. I said, no, these guys are sent, they have a letterhead and all that. Like, what are you talking about and stuff? So I kept defying him. And but thankfully, like in Bombay, there were few people. I mean, the job didn't pay it. I mean, that guy didn't exist after some time. The person who did my interview turned out to be his cable operator.
Right.
Who was doubling up as their HR guy and things, like masquerading as a bit. And like about 2-3 weeks into the job, this person told me that I watch this thing, what's it called? That game, Football Manager. I saying, whatever ideas I've got through this. So that was like the first red flag for me in terms of like, this is not happening. But I've never, like, even growing up, I was never into the whole video game thing. I never got why people.
By the way, on that note, the Football Manager is an incredible game. Like, I've never played it, but people come to me and say, there's a folklore, I don't know if it's true or not, but Andreas Villas-Boas apparently used it for his scouting across.
No, but
I know,
he's also part of
he was a
very serious footballing country. Comes from footballing legacy. He's grown up in Porto, so you can't say Football Manager. Football Manager would have been like 1/100th of what contributed to his development.
No doubt, but that game is
I've seen it. Like, I've
incredibly accurate.
Like, created simulation games to figure out tactics and all that. I've done all of that, but for somebody to create a company based on that, I was like,
that is stretch.
And this guy completely disappeared. But guys like the gentleman called Naval Seth, he really took me under his wing and took care of me. As in terms of, I think I was 20, 21 at the time.
Right.
And completely lost in Bombay. That too in Navi Mumbai. This person who was introduced to me, he let me stay at his house for free. A guy named Sriram. And at least I had good people taking care of me during all of this, because can't really go home and say that nothing worked out and that'll be all, I told you so, I told you so.
So this was an academy?
Nothing, like it was nothing. Like,
so
we were just going and doing recce's and looking at grounds and all of that. The salary also never came through.
Right.
But during this
How long did you stick with it?
That whole, I dissociated with them, I think within 2 or 3 weeks, because the red flags just kept piling up. But during that time, this Vasco Sports Club came calling. And Vasco Sports Club, one of the directors was also part of Chogle College, where I told you I was watching all of these training sessions every day. And he remembered me doing all of it. And he learned that I'd gone and done my C license with the Singapore FA. So he said, why don't you come and take over the youth program at Vasco Sports Club? So we're asking, I think your original question was what happened between, it was TFA the...
Right. So Vasco was before that.
Vasco was before that, and so that was conducting about 3 to 4 training sessions a day.
And this is for what age group of Vasco?
So 14s, 16s, 18s, and then towards the end of the year, you had something known as Tasago, which was the under-20 tournament.
Right.
But now Kannan, who was part of the AIFF setup for the longest time, is now head coach at FC Madras. He would come, I think, about 35-40 kilometers from his house to my place. We would carry 20-25 footballs completely inflated on our back. He would carry a 20-liter, those water cans, those massive ones, hand pumped, cone, markers, all of that, like everything with us, and would go down another 12 kilometers to a training ground. And there we were coaching. So whole bit was, he would take the warm-up and I would wrap up the previous session. Then the next group of kids would come. Then he'd come and join the main session. But between two of us, we were doing about, I think, 6 sessions a day. Because then after that, we had to go to Chogle College. It had a floodlit ground, coach the college team.
Right.
So, like, at least in terms of getting our hours under our belt and just putting work in, it was really intense, that whole experience. But coming to the formation side of things, my parents had come down for one of these, just come meet me in Goa. It's a good excuse also to get away from Aurangabad and stuff. And last time they'd seen football, at least in my context, was what we were doing in school. So you had a couple of these schools, this American International School, which had really good players. St. Bede's and St. Michael's had really good play, at least in the Chennai context. And we thought, like, these guys are where it's at, as in, this is how good it can possibly get. And I was already used to it. It was about 2 years into the job and things. I'd gotten used to working with these players. But my parents had come for one of the under-19 matches.
Right.
And they were blown by the level of football, at least. Because last thing that they'd seen was inter-school in Chennai, which we thought was really good. And now suddenly Vasco Sports Club versus Sessa Goa, Vasco Sports Club versus Dempo versus Salgaonkar. And our team was also quite good, as in we were contenders for that particular tournament. And they were completely blown in terms of, this is pretty eye-opening just in terms of the level of players that we had, how serious they were, how locked in they were, and all of that. So, that was one bit in terms of understanding, like, maybe there is bit more of a scope and things.
Yeah.
And even during that time, I was calling up everyone. So even TFA happened by way of reaching out to people, asking them if there is any vacancy at all, let me know. But yeah, I mean, if you're asking in terms of really opening it out, then TFA was amongst the best things to have happened.
Solid. So Vasco was what year?
Vasco was... TFA went across in 2009, I think.
Right.
So Vasco was 2.5 years there.
Vasco was a great club, right? Legacy
Yeah, it's amongst the first professional clubs in
Yeah.
Goa and all of that.
Yeah,
and it was great to be a part of it.
So yeah, they're playing I-League 2, right?
I-League 2, yeah.
I-League 2, yeah. It's actually sad for these Goan clubs where all of them, I think, in the maybe the years prior to ISL, I remember at one point there was 5 teams in the...
And 4 from Calcutta and
Yeah.
majorly from the region. As in the
Yeah.
player pool was... Even now, like Dempo getting promoted to the I-League bumped up the Goa minutes numbers by around 6 to 8%.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing to have, as in if your major player pool is available locally, you're not really breaking the bank to recruit players from outside, housing them and things like that. So, I mean, that's what cultural leverage also gives you.
Absolutely. We'll come back to Goa first, we'll talk about it. But so after that, TFA happened?
Yeah.
But at TFA, you were what? Head of you?
No, I was part of the junior team, and TFA had a big legacy and all of that. But the good thing was...
They have contributed the most number of Indian footballers, probably.
Yeah, at least till I think 2018-19, number of TFA minutes, number of minutes that TFA players secured was off the charts.
What is the history of TFA? Like it was set up by Tata's, of course.
But during I think mid to late 80s, the whole idea was like collect the best players, give them all the exposure and support needed to be good.
But it's a residential setup.
Yeah, completely residential.
Right, and so they take care of your education and everything else, right? And scholarship completely.
Yeah, nothing to be paid for and all of that. And again, the standard of players there was far higher than what I'd gotten used to in Goa.
Right.
Now you have guys who are part of junior India camps and teams going abroad constantly, getting some positive attention from people. But yeah, I mean, like working with those players also was quite good and eye-opening, purely in terms of mentality. And players from all over the country, like Goa was just Goa.
Right.
But now you suddenly had players from like 6-7 different states, and that really helped me, let's say, learn about different parts of the country and things, and good lesson.
So TFA now is rolled into Jamshedpur FC, right? Or something like that. So it's become
part of their youth setup, and
but still run by Tatas?
Yeah, even Jamshedpur FC is run by Tatas. Yeah, the same management on top.
Right.
I don't know what the structure is as far as the youth bit goes, if TFA is still separate as an entity.
Right.
But I think they compete under the same brand, the Jamshedpur FC. Like TFA doesn't exclusively exist in terms of like competitive outings and things. They compete as Jamshedpur FC.
Got it. And that was for how many years?
That was for about 3 years and a few months here and there.
Right. And after that BFC, right?
After that BFC.
Got it. So what is the experience from, like, what is TFA like?
TFA was quite, I mean, like if at all, in hindsight, it was quite ruthless because the entire thing was designed to win. So like there's no tournament that, as in even if we had to go by train to any place, no matter how far, they would book tickets only for the finals. So if we lost in, let's say, the quarters or semis or any step before that, we had to come back unreserved. And they were quite dogged in terms of what the expectations are. Like TFA is designed to win. These boys need to turn professional, and the only way to catch attention is to defeat the men. So that pressure was quite... and one of the coaches with the older team, he never travelled. So even if I wasn't coaching them, I ended up going with these players and then preparing for competitions and things. But the standard of players was very different compared to what we had initially at BFC, because BFC... my pitch to them was that at least in the 3 years that I managed to work over there, it was that only local players, as in players only from Bangalore. We don't need because my experience at a residential setup also was quite eye-opening. Like I knew for a fact that, at least for a fact for me, that this is not really the best setup.
You've never been a fan of residential setups, right?
Purely because, I mean, the upward movement of players, as in if you have, let's say, 20 spots, all players get the same resources and support. And you know that barely 1 or 2 are going to make it into a 10-year career, provided injuries and all of that stays away. The expense is a bit much, because if your output is just going to be... But something for a TFA is understandable, because they're trying to create a group of players every 2 years that go and play in every corner of the country. As in TFA didn't have a senior team, right? So the entire market was open to them. But at BFC, it made more sense to pitch a local-only model, where players from the city come in, and then the team was always a title contending team. So the quality of players that you bring in will always be of a much higher standard. I think it's very difficult to get into the BFC senior team without having your junior India caps in place, and so you might last the entire academy journey, but there will be a kid who's just finished his under 23 India stint or is a serious talent in the I League at the age of 18, 19 that will outdo the academy product, and that's how it is in most parts of the world as well. If you're a title contending team or a serious setup,
right. So for you, I think it's natural for you to go to BFC because there's no other upward trajectory, right, as a coach. Because if you're coaching the higher senior group, then BFC was naturally a step up in terms of setting up the entire.
Yeah, and then the responsibility of because during my time at TFA as well, I'd done all of these trips. So I'd gone and spent 2 full weeks at PSV Eindhoven. I'd gone and spent some time at Ajax. I'd gone to Sparta Rotterdam, which was, I think, at the time that won 3 titles for the best youth development program in the Netherlands 3 times in a row. Then a more community-based club called Excelsior. So I'd seen like this whole setup in terms of what exactly happens in Netherlands at the time, because even Rob Baan was the technical director of the AIFF.
Right.
This whole Dutch wave had taken over Indian football, and I'd gotten in touch, and he had set up all of these things for me, like opening up the doors and going across to these places. So, when the BFC offer came in, Pradyum had set it up. And he'd gotten me introduced to Mandar Tamane and Mustafa Ghoz to go and meet them. And I'd gone there with a very clear ideal that don't need residential. You can have far more number of kids in a non-residential setup because the cost per kid is significantly lower. Like in the first few years, we keep more or less of an open door system till we figure out what the standards are and then maintain them from year 3. So at least in terms of giving them a progression, all of that, there was good support and understanding in terms of what we were trying to do. So that was the whole idea.
And what are your memories of that? Like, what do you consider like a big win for you at BFC? Is it setting up a complete team that is local, like a youth team?
As in, I think comparatively we could have done better, but purely because we were restricted by the standard of talent that we had. And then I'd taken a really, really, really strict stance against age cheating. Like, minute I figured out a kid was even suspect age cheat and things, didn't entertain them. I think first year we had made it to the finals of the MUPC Cup, the Bayern Munich Cup, all of that. Like, BFC was the best youth team. But minute we learned that these players weren't as old as they said they were, taken, like, either push them up 2 age groups higher or remove them from the club completely. And that's when the results also started to show. Like, if you start being, and that was eye-opening as well. Like, then you start to realize how much of a competitive edge age cheating is. From dominating every youth tournament that we were part of. And Saksham Kakkar, who was part of Young Champs till recently, even he had zero hesitation in terms of, let's not age cheat and things. So for a coach who had made it to 2 major tournaments to say that I'm comfortable with this decision. So, and even the club was backing us up, as in even they didn't want this whole bit of success built on kids who were saying they were younger than they actually were. So that way the support was there, and we had difficulties in terms of securing the training spots. I think the KSFA ground was the only one. So you're starting training at 5:30 in the morning, then these kids would go to schools. In the evenings, the ground weren't available due to various tournaments. But we managed, as in, like, sometimes we had 3 age groups training at the exact same time. We had I think redone the tiny pitch next to the stands for the youngest age group, and that's where McCartan, Nixon, Vineet, all of these boys were training. Like, we have the numbers in terms of height, weight, speed tests, all of that from 2013, and at least that's a little bit of a proof that if you give these kids enough of time and support, like after 12-13 years, they do come through. And both local boys who are securing serious minutes, both national team and for the clubs.
Right. So you decided to leave BFC, join AIFF, right? And I think this is the point. I think it's towards your last year in BFC where I really met you and started to interact with you. So why did you leave BFC? Because I think at that time BFC was the sort of benchmark for anybody starting a club in India. They were sort of the blueprint to follow in, because they were still not part of ISL. I think they were still playing the I League. ISL had just started, but they were parallel. From a purist football perspective, it seemed like BFC is doing everything right. Right. So what was the motivation then to move away?
Not move away. I think I'd started off my more serious coaching licenses with the Scottish FA as well by that time.
Yeah,
so
I remember.
I'd done the whole AFC and UEFA thing parallel. So each time I was doing my AFCB, I was also doing my UEFA B with Bolton Wanderers. I was doing my AFC A, I started my AFC as a UEFA A with the Scottish FA, and then I'd found out this is the TFA bit. That in 2013, Rob Barn is going to be the head instructor of the course, and I didn't get the leave for it, so I said I might as well resign and figure things out once the course is done, because you're getting somebody who was ex-technical director of the Dutch FA, of the Aussie FA. He was part of the UAE setup and PSV Eindhoven. All like his resume was immense. So at any cost, I wanted to secure a spot on that course, and I got it. But the bit was that either you do the course or you continue, or you don't continue with us. So I chose the option to undergo that whole education. And I'd also deferred my assessments with the Scottish FA, who are far more flexible. I was like, yeah, you want to do it next year, you come and do it. And during the A license, what had happened was, while I was doing the course, I ended up creating the manual for it as well.
Right.
All the practical side of things. So like parallelly, whatever was being taught on the ground, I was creating this whole document about what was being taught with the diagrams and whatever instruction they'd given. And by the end of the course, which was like a 30-day interaction over 2 modules, like I had like a good fat book ready, and that became like the course module while I was doing it. So I'd shared it to them at the end of the course, and during the time at BFC, they started calling me in to document what was happening on the B license courses, on the C license courses, purely based on what went on with the course experience that they had with me. So chance to leave BFC also came about because they wanted me to be more seriously involved with the side of things at this place, at the AIFF, because during again, like I'd done my UEFA youth diploma while at BFC, and during this time again I'd secured few more trips to Europe and things to go and study youth programs, and I created this entire document for BFC, as in we called it Bringing Through the Next Blue.
Right.
That was my submission for the Scottish FA, whatever thesis that we had to give in. And they had seen that. So they said, like, this, understand if it can be part of multiple clubs in the country, you guide them through it. How do you develop a philosophy, X, Y, and Z? Like, just create a template for it. So then they created the whole role of head of youth development at AIFF. And a lot of the responsibilities definitely felt as a big step up. Purely in the contribution or opportunities to be a part of the coach education setup, to be a part of the youth development setup through the clubs. That made a lot more sense. At least it was a larger responsibility, and got to be part of the AFC grassroots panel as well while with the AIFF. So like a lot of boxes ticked in terms of it being a clear progression over and above what you just described. Like BFC was becoming the top club and a template for people to follow, but in the AIFF opportunity made a lot of sense.
Right. Of course. And then that brings us to baby leagues, right? For those who probably are watching and never heard about it, if you were to explain what baby leagues are, how would you go about it?
So one, even before I took up the role at AIFF, they'd given me this document that they were working on, the National Youth Player Development Program. It was just full of these drills and ideals and a lot of theory in it, and I was supposed to whatever refine it. Like, that's one bit that I do pretty okay in terms of taking a raw document and making it attractive and things like that. So, and refine it, of course, like, take away all the dead weight and things. And during that time, my whole bit was like, okay, this is great, but this is something that's prevalent across the world. As in, what is it that the Indian environment is missing? As in, like, these documents, these drills might be there in, let's say, any country. Like, learning to pass a ball doesn't change country to country. Learning how to keep possession or defend collectively or individually, these things really don't change. And I asked Scott, who was a technical director at the time that I joined, like, give me a bit of time, let me figure this whole thing out. And spent about, I think, 2 months just reading the biographies of all players that I could find, and just till the time that their childhood got done. And minute I came across this whole bit of the South American players, Luis Suarez, Aguero, I think Cavani's interviews and all, like, pretty much deep dive into what's happening in a country that is socio-economically like ours, as in South America isn't necessarily rich. And this whole baby football thing kept coming up. So, like, players attributing their entire development cycle to baby football, like, that bit kept coming up, especially with the Argentine players. And then, again, like, dug a bit further, went to the baby football website and things, and figured it out, like, most of these kids, they're playing 40 to 50 matches a season. It's grounds that are far worse than anything that we've got. There are not too many rules in terms of the format that you play. Like, you could be playing 5v5 on one weekend, 77 on the next weekend. But the point is that these guys are getting competitive exposure, added with a little bit of coaching and things. I don't know what the coaching system was, but that I felt was like the biggest piece of the puzzle. And then I told them that let's just like this is what we need. Like we need kids playing football every week. Only then will the coaching make sense. Like this whole convergent value of kids wanting to improve, prove themselves to be the best player every weekend. That's what they do between Monday to Friday. Undergo coaching, your own individual training. Like you'll work on your own. You'll have your team training sessions, free play, street football, whatever it may be. But it all converges to what happens on the weekend. That's how football works the world over. That is Monday to Friday. Even the fan is on, let's say, dormant mode.
Yeah.
But Saturday, this guy comes alive and his club is playing, and that sort of, let's say, how ingrained or seeped in this whole competitive element is what convinced me to, or convinced Scott and me to, like, let's prioritize this. Like the coaching bits, we are already taking care of it with, let's say, the coaching courses and things like that. We don't need a national player development plan as such. We need a program or let's just say a structure in which kids can come in and compete. And we'd, as in the concept was quite clear. We said we'll call it baby football. One of my friends who does poster designing for Tamil movie industry, he came up with the logo and things. And to launch it, what we said was let's just run it by all of the ex-players. So we tried to. We gotten about 5 ex-national team coaches, 11 to 12 of national team players who had some of the best in the country, as in guys who had X number of caps and things. We call them. And initial bit was asking them to define what was their upbringing, like who was their first coach, what exactly were they doing, and they said no, we just played. We really didn't have much of coaching and things. And then we started putting up the slides in terms of showing them the number of games that South American kids are getting and all of that. And they're the ones who collectively decided we'll call it baby football. Like why change the model or rename it to something different? It's quite clear what it is. Right. And even we didn't try and get too creative with the rules and regulations. Like got it off the Argentine and Uruguayan website, put into Google Translate, whatever came out, like a little bit of grammatical corrections and things. But point being that kids need to play and adults need to get out of the way when that's happening and provide them guidance and motivation when needed. So at least as the concept to what we were working towards, this grand document full of drills and theory, to coming down to the fact that kids need to play first and then everything else can fall into place. But put the game first and prioritize this. So that took off. I think it had decent, let's say, support. But that's the origin of it. Like what we were working towards and what we came up with was quite straightforward.
And you picked the Northeast, right? You picked Meghalaya as the first market.
It wasn't us picking. We also needed partners and people to come in and give this life. As in, it wasn't us picking. It was us pitching, and then Meghalaya, along with Tata Trust, was amongst the first people. But the first league ever was this thing called Young Legends League. The guys at World One at the time, they were called Football Solutions. They started in this tiny district in Thoubal in Manipur, and and in Champa in Mizoram.
Right.
So with their own funding, like no frills and all of that, just got to ensure that these kids were playing. They got the jerseys and all that sorted. And
and you were explaining this to me, I remember, about how economical it is to host a tournament or a league in the Northeast, right?
Oh,
in these places.
Crazy compared to...
I think you've... you were joking to me once saying that you have a cup named after you because you contributed...
me?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think so.
But you were saying something, right? I think as little as 3,000 rupees is enough to actually run a league across.
As in I joked that if I have 3,000 bucks, I can run a 3-day tournament with renting out the entire indoor hall and stuff, and call it the Richard Hood Cup. Like that's all it will take for me to create a legacy tournament.
Yeah, in fact, you were telling about how it's also very community driven, where a local bakery comes in and says, "I'll sponsor the jerseys, get my name at the back," or another hardware store will come in and say, "Okay, I'll sponsor."
Yeah, the jerseys are stacked in terms of the number of brands and this is not like some major brands. It's I think the Chanmari's under 12 jerseys what I had gotten hold of. But you had Zote's Bakery, DB Shoe Store, MP Medical Store, something AMV Automobiles, and the amounts that they're giving weren't shattering.
Right.
About 3,000 bucks to get the main sponsor, 2,000 bucks here, 500 bucks here. But that's enough to ensure that these kids have booths. These kids get a meal after their matches. The coaches get some sort of amount to take care of them, the transport, all of that. But for exchange of very little money, like you got a lot done, and that's how Northeast works as well. As in, like a lot of hands coming together to pull things off.
What is the secret to this culture? Because this is the right time to ask you this, because you spend so much time studying foreign culture of football, Indian cultures, and you also know where the pockets are in India, where it is slightly like in those markets probably it's more important than cricket, right? What is the genesis of this? Like, what is the theory as to why does Goa have this kind of craze? Why is Northeast so obsessed with football?
I just guess it's one is your whole way in terms of how people gather and let's say congregate towards certain things. So like Mizoram is very easy to understand in terms of their whole energy and the way they spend time together. Football was the one sport that came in. I don't know the origins of it. You had the Young Mizo Association, which is affiliated to the church, that introduced the sport over there and kept creating these competitions. And over there, the inter-district tournaments are quite intense.
Right.
Whatever goes on, and within the districts, there's this inter-village tournament that takes place. So I think it's the same thing in Goa as well. As in, you have like your inter-ward, which turns into inter-village, which turns into inter-this, inter-that. So like I think when I was staying in Goa, you had the back sheet, like the last few pages of the newspaper, more than 100 fixtures that were announced, and you had no clue where this is happening. And including the guy who I told you, Kannan, he would keep kept going across a bit earlier, like why we have a floodlight tournament for 20 minutes as a match. If we progress, we'll play till 2 in the morning. And these bits of these autonomous small tournaments I'd seen in Bengal as well. Like if you go to Kalyani district and the more rural parts, there's just football. And this is the same in cricket.
Right.
Like the amount of unofficial engagement that takes place around competition. Like there's no coaching culture or anything as such. I think combined Manipur and Mizoram, which gives us most of our players, the coaching qualification count is quite low.
Yeah.
The fact that they're engaging and playing in some way or the other. I think that's a good way of bringing the whole community together as well. They're coming in to compete. Your village versus my village and all of that. And it's covered really well. It's got a whole bunch of branding. Like if you go and follow, it's all in the local languages, but on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, it looks great. Like the Sevens culture in Kerala is incredible. So I don't know the origin of it, whether it is the way these people affiliate, and cricket might be looked more of as an individual sport. Not everybody is involved together the whole time. And I don't think it like the sport ever sort of got a foothold over there in any of these regions. Like you have BCCI investments over there in terms of projects and training grounds and all of that, which I think is uniformly distributed. But football as a cultural force is stronger than most other parts of the country.
The two things that I've read about, one is obviously the cost element. I think cricket requires a little bit more money. Maybe not with the tennis ball and bat, etc. But generally it's slow. It involves more investment of time because it takes more time to play, etc. The other thing I read, I don't know how far it's true. They said that the reason football didn't take off is because it's a contact sport, and because of our caste system, we weren't so comfortable with it. Even I've just heard, I read about it recently, and it said that because of the contact, we didn't play any contact-based sport in largest part of central and northern India, and as a function of which, the game never took off, and they chose to play cricket because there you could play because it didn't have.
But even if you look at the cities like Bangalore, the parts of the city where football is the number one sport, it has a strong Tamil identity. You go back to the origins of what their, let's say, reason for immigrating here, what jobs they secured. Maybe that ticks a few boxes in terms of what you've just described. Right. Maybe Bombay, if you go, like Bombay being like the major hub of cricket, but even the parts that are giving us our football players are really tiny pockets in the city that don't play cricket at all.
Right.
So you can have two worlds existing at the same time. But
same thing with Kerala to a large extent. For
South Kerala is more cricket oriented,
and the North is more football
completely
oriented.
Obsessed with football.
True. And if you look at it, I mean, I don't know the theories of who came, I mean, which foreign influence came and gave the sport to them, but even there, cricket took so long to take off. Like, I think the entire state has had maybe 3 people play for the country. And I think Tinu Johanan, Srishant and Sanju Samson, that's it. I don't think there's anybody after that. So it's been slow burner. So I think there's a contrast there, right? Even Calcutta, for that matter, for all the thing of cricket, the number of cricketers who have played for the national team actually are far few in comparison.
No, but you shouldn't ever compare it to
you don't,
national team, but because that's like one in a billion that gets a chance to even make it to the dressing room. So
on the flip side, I think football has been I don't know what percentage.
No, but I think the old colonial strongholds like Calcutta, Chennai, Bombay, they have a multi-sport setup throughout. As in football has dropped down in terms of the amount of organization and all that taking place. When you talk to these ex-players and things, when they tell you a number of games they were securing every season, would go into like 35-40 matches a year across various tournaments. And there's no one way of doing things. As in, if you're getting 40 matches, out of which, let's say, 65 to 70% are high stakes engagements, as in it's not a big scoreline, you're being challenged. I think that should have been the end aim, but somewhere or the other, cricket sustained its level of engagement. In fact, it's grown tenfold in terms of number of kids playing, and we get a bit blind in terms of being involved in football. We fail to acknowledge how huge cricket is.
True.
Like within our own circles and things. Like minute you talk to anyone involved in cricket at any level, and you figure things out. Even today, like though we see a lot of these soccer schools and soccer schools, apart from that, what's it called? Various setups that are coming up. Kids are playing football as a preferred sport in certain schools, but the cricket ecosystem that misses us. Like a behemoth, right? And people just don't grasp how huge the game is.
In fact,
football people, that is.
Yeah, in fact, there's I also find a lot of football purists like have a resentment towards cricket in India. The minute you bring up cricket, like, hey, it's cricket, leave it. Like, we don't need to do anything. Like, there's almost dismissive, but there's so many positives you can take from it. Because I think the biggest thing cricket managed to do is that it's sold itself as an entertainment product to the largest part of the country, right? Because I remember at home sitting, coming home after school and watching cricket with my grandmom and mom, right? They would never watch football.
No, same. Like, as in, my mom is like a wild cricket fan.
Exactly.
So
because they were able to sell the sport to the audience who would never play it, and the ones who just come and watch it, and that gave enough eyeballs and reasons for advertisers to come in, and then that in turn kicked the sport off, right?
I can imagine.
Yeah. So somewhere football has failed to do that, and I feel from an entertainment standpoint, I mean, being football fans now, there's no question about it. Like, on average basis, if you compare, leave the T20 out of it, but a game of football is far more exciting from a minute
at any level.
At any level, right? In terms of just pure minutes. If you're just to compare minute to minute, pound for pound value, it's just there's no I don't think there are too many sports in the world that come close. So, but we haven't been able to break through to the Indian market. I also feel it's because not enough technical knowledge is there. Like in cricket, you were saying, right? We were talking about how Wasim Akram grips the ball and
all of that. Yeah.
How Tendulkar's hand comes straight down and head doesn't move. Like, there's so many technical aspects that Aam Janta knows. In football, we don't know that. Like, because that kind of
football, you see it in places where the participation rates are high. So like any of the viewership numbers and things that you see, Kerala and Northeast and Bengal usually rack them up. And anybody, I think football also, to make it a let's say commitment to watch the game every weekend, I think most people have played it at some level or the other.
Yeah.
Because purely in terms of you start understanding the game if you played it a bit.
Correct.
So when you watch a game of football, you can tell different technical bits that are unfolding. You know what a duel feels like. So having your own experience in the game, any level, like you could have just played 5v5 for your corporate team, and that's enough for you to engage with the game in a meaningful way because you understand what's unfolding. I think that's what happens in cricket also. And with the mom and sister side of things, I don't think my mom ever played, but all her male siblings were obsessed with cricket. Like in terms of the number of cricket books that I inherited from my uncle, like all of the Sunil Gavaskar's Omnibus, like read it cover to cover, Richard Hadley's book, Viv Richards' book, Clive Lloyd's book. Like this was like even before football came into my life, cricket was such a huge part of it because that's all I was doing in my free time.
Right.
Memorizing all the facts in those cricket cards, which school these guys went to, what is Chaminda Vas's full name, what does VVS stand for. Like these were like your social cred, right? Like in schools and stuff. So that way, cricket managed to get through in a lot, and we were playing cricket. So like in terms of what it feels like in terms of what's unfolding, there's some lived experience in watching that.
Yeah.
And I think football, there is a direct bit in terms of guys who actually play will end up watching it a lot more rather than just a person who's never really played.
Yeah.
You need to have just played like at a bare minimum level to connect with the sport because you've lived it. So I think
every year the World Cup, every time the World Cup comes along, it creates a spike in interest for club football as well. Like I have friends who watch the Qatar World Cup and they're like, oh, now we're hooked. Now we want to watch the season. And also Qatar World Cup was bang in the middle, right? So the season started 10 days later.
Yeah.
So it's easy to get in on. But, one other thing I feel is in cricket, that gap between each ball, a lot of education happens.
With the commentary.
Yeah, the commentary is like,
or your own uncle educating you on what this is.
And then there's also a lot of speculation, right? So now he's going to bowl this and now he's going to it's almost, there's that. In football, there's no time because it's just, you have to just you probably can make 5 comments in the second half towards the last 30 minutes when the game is all intensive. You're like, okay, he's going to probably do
shoulda,
this.
coulda, woulda sort of thing. Yeah.
He's going to bring an extra forward. You're going to stretch the other team. That. There'll be speculations, but it's hard to sort of do large amounts of knowledge transfer. So I feel that's also another reason. Like for me, I've been watching football since 2003, probably dedicated. I did my D license in 2015. T license was an absolute eye opener in terms of just basics, and I was like, if I just did this
back then,
so I was going back and reliving my school games where I made mistakes or where I didn't score.
I start to understand how.
Yeah, it is eye opener, and then you realize that for some of that technical knowledge to come to you, you need to be in the field. Like you were saying, you have to have played at some level, or else it's very hard for you to comprehend. I'm just trying to think, is there any way to deconstruct that to the Aam Janta in some ways or the other? Like one of the things that was eye opener for me was defensive, because I always played as a left back all through my school and college days. The concept of the principles of defense, right? The delay, depth,
divert, pressure, cover, balance.
Exactly. That's basics, right? And if you're taught that, and I have to ask you as a coach, what age does that information get fed to a kid, for example? Because I learned it at 23, and for me it was like, my God, this should be like, I should have learned this at 13. Is what I felt, because I would be able to just figure things out, rally a backline, and figure out how to keep shape, and then no matter who's playing against you, you would probably be in advantage. And you hear stories of AC Milan, right, back in the day with Baresi and Maldini, and who were the other guys in the early 90s? Nesta was there. Was young.
Nesta much later. Yeah.
No, Nesta. Ruud Gullit was talking about them.
We're talking about the team under Sachi.
Yeah.
All of those guys.
Right. And how they would often, like in training, their own team would play against them, and
4v8, and they would never break through.
Never break through, right? It just comes from mental ability to just.
So those drills are up there on YouTube if you want to watch the 4v8s and stuff of Maldini, Baresi, and these guys versus an all-star attacking lineup. Those are there to watch, like Arrigo Sacchi training sessions.
Right. I should check it out. Yeah. But like, how do you transfer that kind of knowledge? Because I feel it's like in cricket, if by having just played it, right? If you're an off spinner, if you're a leg spinner, if you are a medium pacer to fast bowler, left arm, right arm, there's so many technical elements, tactical elements to in the one-on-one contest that if you're an elite player, you're ingrained to think that way from a young age. So at 13, 14, you'll be like, okay, there's a bowler coming. His action is by default the one that generates outswing. So you have to be wary of it. So you would probably take a middle stump guard, for example, right? Just to ensure that you have a little bit more room to play on the offside. Stuff like that. As teenagers, we were sort of around these conversations.
Figuring it out, because you have the reps as well.
Correct. Yeah. Right. But in football, what age does that information get transferred to kids?
I don't think like some of the best youth coaches, they explain it in terms of intent. They're not going to tell you pressure, cover, balance. But they tell you in terms of, we are creating pressure to send them right or send them left. We're creating pressure to win the ball back. We're creating pressure to slow them down. And kids understand that, as in what exactly are you going there for. And then the second layer of, I'm just talking about within the defensive, but second layer of players are taught, if the pressure fails, where do you go? Where do you think the ball is most likely to go? So they are like the coaching bit in terms of the teaching players in terms of what exactly is the intent of what we're trying to do or the purpose of it. They're not telling you pressure and this is the cover bit. But it's all in terms of if, then, when sort of scenarios that are painted over and over again. So then you get some sort of, let's say, understanding or cohesive play style that, so like between you and me, if at all they say, if I'm going to press, he's going to be a bit aggressive and jump in wild, and 9 out of 10 times the guy is just going to tap the ball away, it won't be successful. So teammates also start to understand that if this guy is going to press, be ready for the press to break and them whatever progressing. But with Sanand, they know he'll cover the angle, he'll send them left first, slow them down and things like that. And what happens is, again, all of these things, it takes time for it to be inculcated. There's no explicit way of teaching players. But if you have from the age of 5, 6, 7, 8, if you're meaningfully engaged in a full season, wherein you're training, let's say 6 to 8 hours a week, you have 40 games to work towards, all of this starts to become, let's say, second nature, you know. Then the coaches start to figure out things like the fine details, as in you're not really teaching them this how you go, you slow them down. Like how we're taught on coaching courses, that's not how you actually coach. Like the coaching courses are more of a bit of proving your competency, that you understand the topic, you understand the technical details of it, and can you pull it off in the 20-minute assessment that you have. But real life coaching, I mean, like in the actual context, you know that you have a whole year with these guys. What's most important, I'm talking about like overseas context, is what's happening in the next game.
Right.
Is this player improving week on week in terms of what has been taught last? There's no, let's say, set limit in terms of, I need to teach him how to ping the ball 20 yards today. But in a coaching course, that's what you're after. And there was, let's say, the assessment as like teach in step shooting, let's say D license level, like a very basic topic. So in terms of how we are taught and what actually happens in the real world is very different. So overseas, these kids are taught over the course of a season.
Right.
And then they figure things out. Maybe pressing is not their thing. Maybe playing 1-2 touch is not their thing. They want to dribble a lot more. And then that's when you have your own identity as a player, your own, let's say, style of play as a coach, and all of this comes together. But it's a season-long thing. Like coaching isn't about topics. Like how do you teach this? At what moment does it come in? Moment arrives, and then player uses common sense that we will get into trouble if we don't delay this guy. there is trouble at the back, so I need to do X, Y, and Z. So it takes time, and it takes let's say lots and lots and lots of reps to nail all, like just the basic principles of play takes a lot of time, and that's what I think overseas they get a lot better also. They're not force feeding coaching points, they're not force feeding learning outcomes and things. They let it unfold. Like even the coaching experience overseas, let's just say a basic license in India, it used to be, and it's changed now. Like earlier when we had to go, it was 14 days in and out. You need to have proven that you are capable of coaching at a C license level, or you're capable of deserving this B license. But the B license that done in UEFA with Bolton Wanderers, it was a 1.5 year long journey with multiple trips, with assessments being given. Go and apply it in your own home environment. Come back with 20 session plans where you worked on this. Make your notes individually and collectively. What have you learned? What will you not repeat again? So like the whole learning journey puts you into a grind of assessing yourself. How effective is your coaching style? What players are you working with? Are you getting outcomes based on the players' understanding and ability to execute? Because there's no point in judging my ability as a coach and towards a player who is not capable of doing certain things. Then what is your plan B then? If you decided that if this player is on the pitch, you're not going to go ahead with this. So, like the learning experience was so much more, let's say, individualized in my context, because I was applying it all in India and then coming and explaining it to them, and also a lot more wholesome because you're using those topics to flesh it out over an entire season rather than prove that I know this topic really well, and you end up putting up really bad sessions if you're given 20 minutes to come up with a certain outcome.
So how many hours do these kids train every day in these countries?
It's very cultural. So I think Japan, if you read a lot of inputs that Tom Bai keeps providing on his Twitter handle or his book, or even Athletic did a article recently. So Japan is like 8 to 10 hours a week leading up to the game, and maybe 2 games a week. An intense training culture. You just watch some of these documentaries of Japanese baseball players. You'll think our cricketers are having it easy. And certain countries, like it varies from club to club also. So like I think on average, everything put together, your autonomous hours, your free play, your structured training, individual, all of that, kids are getting anywhere between 6 to 10 hours of coaching a week from the time they're 6, 7, 8.
And same in South America? Or
Yeah,
South America there's no coaching?
No, there is. I think that's a big misnomer that Brazil is all street football and there is nothing there, and the streets are the coaches and stuff. It's from what I understand, it's changed a lot. A lot of these guys have a deep understanding, like your favela or neighborhood teams have this one particular coach. So learn to play Filipau's way. So there's one guy who also runs a shop, has his own coaching setup and things. He coaches a futsal team on weekends according to his own understanding of the game. But there is something like our base level knowledge of cricket in India, like you said, like technically a lot of people can explain the game without really having heard sophisticated English commentary or any such thing. But as it's unfolding, they can talk you through the game in a very educated manner, and that's what happens in mature footballing environments as well. As in, person who's half involved and involved with kids and getting them to engage can deliver a good learning experience that brings out the best in them. So I don't think it is quantifiable as such, or saying that it is formal, informal and things, but certain non-tangibles are like you need to put the time in under pressure. That is being challenged, being pushed to the edge to bring out the best in you. So whether it happens on under the guidance of a pro license coach or under your uncle who happens to double up as the under 10 coach, those contexts are secondary to the point in terms of just how intense and fulfilling the experience is for the kid. Is it challenging him? And that's what gives you your top players after a 15-20 year journey.
Absolutely.
What you see it.
So it's a so it's simulation at the end of the day in terms of what will be the most intensive environment. It could be in training our games and the combination of those. Ideally both, right? So because you need that. I remember during my D license, the coaches there in WIFA were talking about this, where they said a lot of kids play really well when there's a coach at the touchline shouting and giving instructions constantly.
That's what they believe it
is. Right. But I'm somewhere I can understand, because I've seen that now with TCL and other things. There are some coaches and some teams generally where the coach is super controlling, super aggressive from the touchlines and giving instructions, and then there are others where it's more of they don't need to say much, just say a few things here and there, and then the kids sort of autopilot themselves and play, right? And I think it comes down to the way you coach, the way you bring, etc. So, by the end of the day, regardless of what the method is, you just need to create the right balance between training and games with the right simulation, right? Is it also the same philosophy same reason why I think a lot of these academies are wanting to build residential and in-house the kids, because then they feel they can control the environment?
I think
And also the commercial aspect of it too.
Commercial, yeah, for sure. I think it's
You
very
can make money on
profitable.
it. I think it's just
Great
it's like,
endeavor to put
yeah,
your business ideas behind, and
it's like a school essentially.
yeah, with football added,
Yeah.
and you tie up with a school and things. But residential bit, from whatever my understanding is, that people believe that they can buy lost time. So let's just say that what's crucial neurologically or just in terms of skill acquisition at a particular age, we can undo that by doubling up the training sessions by keeping them there full time. So most of the residential setups in India, they train a lot more than the European counterparts. But the whole thing of we are in the catch-up game now. We should be training more than them, much harder than them, and things. Which personally for me also, what I told you earlier, that I thought like fitness, if I get that right, everything else will fall into place. But being able to read the game because you're playing it week in and week out, whether it is your street football with your siblings and neighborhood kids, and eventually finding a way to a club, and from the age of 5, 6, 7, how that compounds till the age of 13, where most of our residential setups start. That volume of football experience that these kids get merits not having a residential setup.
Right.
So usually, if you, barring very, very few academies and clubs overseas, you, for each age group, you might have, let's say, 2 or 3 players from the U16 age group onwards who are not part of the city where the club is based. Like they come from overseas, or they come from a different part of the country where they've earned the spot to get that additional attention.
Right.
They get a stipend, they get food, good accommodation and things, but it's barely 2 or 3 players per age group squad, and they are the ones who will start every game.
Right.
Not on the bench at all. They usually will turn out to be the captains of the clubs that they're a part of, that's giving them all this attention. And the element of control is that, yeah, if we train so much more, we know exactly what we're doing, we will catch up eventually. But what we realize is that negating what happens between the ages of 12 backwards to the age of 5 and trying to catch up with it by doubling up on, let's say, between ages 13 to 20, there is no way of making those two worlds meet, because what is lost.
True.
Just in terms of the players' wiring, in terms of how they associate with the game, the level of ball mastery they can possibly get, because at those age groups also there's a lot of autonomy.
Right.
You're not inhibited by what's possible, not possible. They'll try out all sorts of skills without necessarily feeling embarrassed. And from 13 onwards, it gets to be a little bit more formal in terms of you move into a larger format of the game. You need to adhere to certain tactics a lot more. Your chances in residential academies to get individual coaching also goes down so much, because coaches want control.
Right.
And then they instill fear in you. If you train extra, you will get injured. Don't do this. Who asked you to go out and juggle the ball? You are in a setup where you can't really create much of noise and things. So a lot of these things that kids need, little bit of free time, little bit of chance to experiment and figure things out for themselves. Even that, I feel, starts to get taken away.
Right.
Unless you are the exception guy, like the 2 or 3 in a larger team that goes back to the homes, and you're here purely to make it work. I think that dynamic gets a bit taken away.
Is there any example of a player who started late in the sense not, say, after the age of 8 or 9, and still has achieved the heights?
In India, plenty.
Abroad?
Overseas, I don't think so.
Not many, right?
No, like you'll hear a lot of these things, like I think Araujo, the one who's
Ronaldo Araujo?
Yeah.
With Barcelona.
So according to me, he started very late, but that is very late in
Uruguay.
In Uruguay, but I think he has some Brazilian descent. He's on that border town between Brazil and Uruguay. But they said he started really late, at the age of 12 or something like that. But the whole point is that between the ages of 5 and 12, he was good enough to get into a top academy because of the quality of informal play that he was getting. So it's not really structured, let's say, in terms of you're not part of a U8 squad, but you're also playing with 14-year-olds while you're 10. That gives you a little bit of a wake-up call in terms of playing against or with kids who are older than you. You know when to release. Like your experience in the game is equally rich. Like what you'll get in a formal and organized manner. And like I think remember reading long time back about Dirk Kuyt, also the Liverpool player. They said he started very late. Like the whole article, and I was reading through it. They said he got his first club at the age of 8. And that is unacceptable and things like that. Like somebody who started this late has made it and stuff. So like that is where like a lot of these alarm bells go, right? Like at 8, if they're considering like it's a bit too late, he joined the system late and things and still made it and stuff. So what exactly are we talking about? So
the Dutch are crazy. when it comes to football.
No, and even that, maybe like the national team success is not that much.
It is not. That's I think they're the most
Footballing
nerdy,
nation.
the most nerdy footballers in the
You'll
world.
read books like Brilliant Orange and all of that. It's
And-
crazy, like the way they associate with the sport.
I think they've themselves overcomplicated the sport a little bit.
Not really. I think
Because in comparison to the titles,
no,
right?
they've peaked against legacy teams.
Yeah.
Like for Johan Cruyff's team to have done better than, I mean, to reach the level they did, but in the context of Brazil being as good as they were.
Yeah.
Or Germany being as good as they were. So usually like their peak also came in when other countries were peaking
And they probably like were unfortunate in the 70s, right?
but
And 78, I mean, it was
and it's
all-
a ruthless sport.
yeah.
Like you lose 1-0 in the finals and things like that, then what can you...
Yeah, and then he also didn't play a World Cup.
Who?
Cruyff.
Is it?
Yeah, his family got kidnapped.
What? Oh, he missed a World Cup.
Yeah, he opted out because I think the one in Argentina, the 78 one.
He missed out on that.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. The story is his family got kidnapped, and I think I think it was a dictator then back then. Right? They didn't want him to play because obviously Netherlands was incredible with him.
And the stories of how Argentina won that World Cup also like quite.
So that is the one I think where Netherlands lost in the final, if I'm not wrong. Didn't they to Argentina?
No idea. I don't recall.
I think Argentina.
It is one of
78.
those.
So he didn't play. So that was the thing. But they could have had 2 titles then. That
Coulda,
that
shoulda,
decade.
woulda.
Yeah, but anyway. So what? At what age should a kid graduate to a full 11-a-side field?
That, I mean...
What's the ideal one? I mean,
there's no ideal because if people keep saying you need to follow the European model, like Europe itself doesn't have a model.
Right.
So we keep saying it needs to be progressive, start small, build big as they grow older. So something like Croatia till I'd spent time at Dinamo Zagreb in 2017 and 18, like in and out of that place. Their first age group, the youngest ones play 99. So it's 99 and 11v11 at I think 13-14. But the jump is straight up. And recently across Europe, I think 7 to 8 countries have decided that to delay the 11v11 till the age of 14. So you go 9v9 and then go up to the age of 14. And from what I have understood is there's no ideal age as such. Because let's just say I brought this up thinking I'll open the eyes of Spanish people. I'll give them a bit of my understanding in things. Like I'd gone to Athletic Bilbao and these guys go from 7v7 to 11v11. And that one particular age group jumps up and then they play one age group higher. So the U12s play U13s at 11v11 because the quality difference is that much. And when I told them, it'll be a lot more progressive if you go 9v9, they said no one cares. Like it takes about 3 to 4 match days for the kids to get used to the new format. It isn't some earth-shattering thing that or any sort of revolutionary thing that you've suddenly brought in 11v11 and that's going to sort everything out. Like the kids don't care. Like they know next year they're going to play 11v11. They know how the game functions. They've been playing football from the ages of 5, 6, 7. So, like making the streak and subjecting the whole country to getting new dimensions, new goalpost sizes, all of that done. Like we're not fussed or bothered by it. And even they know that the journey is so long in terms of this one tweak being the game changer is not really all that is made out to be. If it works, it works. Like it's logical. It makes all the sense in the world that you go 7, 9 and then 11s. But with the Spanish guys, at least in that tiny interaction, they said it doesn't matter. Like it takes 2 days, 2 match days to get used to it. And
just thinking about this now, in cricket, they never talk about this. The dimensions of the field. Because apart from the 22 yards, nothing else matters, right?
No, but like I read this book, I think Crickonomics, there's a whole chapter on New Zealand about how they revolutionized the game at the younger levels. Even Australia, they've scaled it down like crazy. Rather than the pitches are smaller, bats are smaller, balls are smaller and things. And New Zealand, like one of the things of getting the kids involved is that 2 games happen side by side. So when one side is batting, their team is fielding at the other end. So once you get out, you go out and field for your team at the other pitch where there are separate matches going on. So there's no thing of like a pavilion bit of kids just sitting there for the innings to get over. And there are a whole bunch of these other bits in terms of game, making the game a lot more inclusive. They're the only major cricketing country that didn't bother with the T20 league. Like they didn't pick up on that bandwagon. Like we might as well export. The amount of cohesion between each of the regional cricket associations is so good. In terms of the communication, the national team coach calling up, let's say the Christchurch coach telling him that why don't you get him to open the bowling? I want to see him. So and obviously in a small country that has only one language and strong.
I think 6 state teams. I think
something like that. But so I think cricket in countries that have the means and bits to pull it off, can do it. So similar example in football as well. Like they had this whole research in UK sometime back. where they tried to mimic what a kid experiences playing in a adult's format of football. So they got adults to play the football that came up to their knees. They made the goal about 2x larger, and they said, this is what the kids experience. We should be using size 2 balls, and we should be using much smaller goalposts. It's more friendly to the kid. It's difficult to master such a big ball.
Right.
And again, I forgot who it was. I think one of these guys from Australia who had spent a lot of time in South America is like, we don't have the money to do all this. Like, to secure a size 3 ball and scale it down, scale it up every weekend, logical, make it inclusive and things. And he said, the kids don't care. Like, minute you as an adult start pointing out mistakes, like, we can't be playing on such a bad pitch. The football has more air or less air. Goalpost is too big. Goalpost is too small. 9 out of 10 times, kids don't care. Like, they get on with things a lot faster than adults do usually. Because adults, at the end of the day, the score line and a lot of things are at stake with line to their ego.
Yeah.
They start to look at things to blame, as in if the outcome is not that successful. And this level of flexibility we've seen in Mizoram a lot. Like, the amount of opposition that we face in, let's say, larger cities. How can you suddenly come and tell us that we're playing 7v7? We whole year we've been playing 5v5 and this. Mizoram, they don't care. They're like, tomorrow we have these championships. Can we do? Yeah, we can do 7v7. And there's not even one whimper of, let's say, like, we have to play football, right? Like, the whole approach is that because they've played enough to know that it doesn't count for much, and even the opposition team has to make the same changes. So there's no competitive edge as such in terms of all of these changes and things. So I think I think the origin of the question was the scale bit. Cricket doesn't have it, and that all of these changes that require mass adjustments and stuff comes in more better off nations that have the means and resources to pull it off. And if you don't, then you just continue keeping the game as the mainstay and then focus on that. Like, eventually things will catch up. Like, that 12-year-old who couldn't bowl those 22 yards develops the body and physicality one growth spurt away from finding it easy. Like, just in terms of dealing with, let's say, bowling fast over a particular distance and things. Whereas in Australia, they're doing that whole scale, but as in the pitch size will grow according to the age of the players. But I don't think in economies where it cannot be pulled off, people are losing sleep over it. As in, just play.
True. Through all of this, you didn't stop your education, right? And this one particular course I want to talk about, the one you did in 2018. I remember I messaged you because I wanted to ask you something. I wanted to meet you. And then you said, I'm away for a course. I said, okay. And then you sent me a picture. And it was your lecturer who was taking your class that day. And it was nobody but Jose Mourinho. So what is that course? And there's also one famous classmate of yours I know from that course, who's now managing Man United, Ruben Amorim. But what have these experiences been like, particularly this one? And also, I'm sure you've interacted with so many other football personalities during your time, right? In various courses, and be it A license, B license, etc. How have those been for you?
One, I think very early on, I had Donald Park, who was with the Scottish FA, and I'd made my way there, and he had asked me, like, what's bringing you from India to here? I think now a whole bunch of these guys are going to Scotland to do their licenses from India. I think I was amongst the first one to knock at the door and get through and sign up for it. So purely in terms of the course experience, what he explained to me was like, this is more a testing ground. We're not going to teach you new things. There's enough and more people, role models, idols, coaching sessions that you can go and attend and stuff. Here we'll teach you how to do the bare basics. As in, what we're going to teach you is rock bottom bare. It's how deep you dig and how ambitious you are that you can take this forward. But we'll teach you what are the basic tools of pulling it off. But what he made very clear was there's the networks, the friendships that you make over here, where you take it from here. I think that's going to be the best part of the course experience. And the Scottish FA also for me, in terms of, let's just say, the course experience was so different from what I'd done between Singapore and India. By then I'd also done my AFCA with the AIFF. That we were spending around 80% of the time on the pitch. We were involved as players, and classroom sessions were very little because their whole bit was, if there's anything to teach, we'll send you the reading material. If there's any lecturer who's of note, then that time we go congregate at that lecture hall and stuff and then hear out people. But it was so much on the field. Your entire assessment was done based on how much you can control a training session, or just pull off a good training session, understanding of the topic and stuff, and what are your own, like, it was so individualized also in terms of our interactions with our instructors. So that was one part of it. I personally got to meet a lot of people on the A license bit. So even Nuno Santo of recently of Nottingham Forest, he was one of our classmates. Then Duncan Ferguson was part of the A license course. Then this Portugal course also, it was the second edition that I got admission into. And
What course was this?
This
Masters
was
in
the postgraduate in high performance football coaching. So it was through University of Lisbon, where Mourinho was their most famous graduate and pretty much the selling point of the course. Though he was there for a couple of days, but the panel that had come across also was quite significant. So the SNC guy was the head SNC coach of Barcelona's first team. So if he's telling you that XYZ player is benching so many pounds or runs at so much of a distance, it isn't anything that's coming out of these journals or books and stuff. He's talking about what happened like 3 days back.
Right.
Because the course contact days also happened during the international breaks. So then you got all these guys from Barcelona, somebody from Ajax, somebody from PSG, somebody from Benfica, someone from Sporting Lisbon. All of these, like the faculty was guys who are in the real world coming in, like with the Portuguese national team, the nutritionists, the sports scientists, all of that. So like we had people who are involved in it day to day. And my entire motivation for the course was I made up my mind after 3 years at AIFF that I want to get into coaching. This entire experience, exposure I'm going to use in terms of how do I develop myself as a first team coach?
Right.
How do I put a staff together?
Right.
What side of, what are my blind spots in terms of communicating with media, the understanding of sports science, dealing with players, the larger tactics, how to use analysis in a far more meaningful way. So that was my objective of getting onto it, as in getting a little bit of a career switch and educating myself for it.
Right.
And course ticked so many boxes in terms of who the attendees were, who the lecturers were, and then obviously the Mourinho factor kicked in, and Ruben Amorim happened to be a part of the same batch.
Did you interact with Mourinho?
Mourinho, I didn't get so much of a chance, but there's this one instance that I keep telling everyone that was alone with him at the lunch table for about 5 minutes. I let him start the conversation.
And he didn't?
No, I think somebody joined us eventually and then they took off in Portuguese and stuff, but yeah, at least I could have. But I was obviously a bit, overwhelmed with the whole bit. Like, you don't know what do you say to the guy who you've like watched for so long and
true.
admired. So, like, whatever, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
But would have been like, I think 20 seconds felt like 5 minutes, but.
Right. But useful sessions with him. I remember you telling me that one of the things that stood out for you with that Mourinho interaction was how much he prepared for a game. Right. And then how into detail oriented he was. And
as in detail oriented, at least what came out quite clearly was he's very specific about what details he's looking for. So let's just say there are 200 points of data and evidence that is out there. He knows exactly what he wants the players to see. So in terms of being able to pick out, dissect all of this information and how clearly he conveys it, that came out clearly, as in doesn't waste any amount of time in his interaction with the players, as in it's so pointed and specific to what's going to happen in the next game. And one big part of the lecture was his preparation for the Europa League against Ajax. What were the considerations that were made, the starting 11, what training sessions he had undertaken, how long was each drill for, how do they manage quality during training sessions, what each staff member does. And the Q&A was obviously by far the most interesting because there is one part of the course that everybody came prepared with their own questions. If Mourinho is in front of you, what would you ask? So I think, but great interaction, as in like none of these curt answers. He was very generous with how, let's say, detailed he got with his explanations, how much he indulged us in terms of just explaining things that how it works at that level. So that way it was worth it. I mean, obviously worth it. So,
did you speak to Amorim?
Amorim, I mean, it was as much interaction with as I think anybody had, and with him at the time, he was just about retiring. I think he was He had a long-term injury with Benfica, and he had also taken on this course to learn about the coaching world. I think that was his first interaction in any sort of, let's say, coach education or coach development forum. So he was just fresh out of playing, and interaction with them was like over lunch, and let's say there was group work and all of that happening, and just some normal chit chat here and there. I troubled him once for Aimar's contact, because we were having to choose about where we go and do our internship. And Aimar was at River Plate at the time, so it was ticking 2 boxes for me: Argentine legend and getting to go to Argentina and things like that. But that didn't go anywhere. I ended up going to Dinamo Zagreb and Athletic Bilbao for my internships. But yeah, I mean, interaction was like polite and stuff, but got along with a lot of the other guys because we were all staying at a dormitory while there at the course. So like 4-5 of us were quite tight because of the whole bit of where we were staying. And
yeah. He does have a weirdly optimist, positive nature about him, I feel. is like he's
No, that came across as in if you even in the classroom and stuff, like the jokes that were coming through and just the life of him, the charisma was undeniable. And it's like at the time when we were doing our A license, even like nobody knew who he was. He was not really a mainstay goalkeeper and stuff. But when the sessions were on, you could tell like this guy is different from anything out there on the entire course. Just in like he had come to the A license to get it, and he was fast tracked. I think by day 4 we never saw him again because they sent him straight to the pro license because this guy was that good. So and same with Ruben also. It was the personality came through from day one. Like the amount of attention he gave. On the academic side, he ended up topping most of the let's say the assignments and things like that. Like it wasn't that he was taking his status as a player for granted or I already know all these things. Like there wasn't a single lecturer or person who walked into the classroom that he didn't know very well because these were guys who were part of the national team setup.
Right.
Guys coming in from Benfica. He himself, I think, had strong associations with Sporting Lisbon and all of that.
Right.
But not once, like we had seen some of the coursework he had put together. It was very, very serious stuff. And there was no half-hearted effort. Like even like certain topics that we said, okay, that's when we do get to it, we'll give it to a SMC coach and stuff. We really don't need to dive into it a bit too much. But this guy was quite dogged in terms of learning everything and doing well on the course. Like that was his clear intent.
Yeah, and I think you need a little bit of all of that plus great tenacity and perseverance to succeed in a job like Man United.
Man Utd anywhere. I think at that level, if you're commanding millions of dollars of assets, a whole bunch of expectations around you, and if you're talking about the whole entertainment bit that you said, you like need to, for a club like Man United, it has to be entertaining as well. Like in terms of the tempo, style of play, that even after they win a game, like no, under Ferguson's era, we were just Lord of the Wings and whatnot with Giggs and Beckham and all those chats. Because I have too many Man U fans as friends, so they keep crying about it. But it's not, like at any level to coach at, to put a group of players together to perform week in and week out and then keep securing, because even his trajectory was quite rapid, and that's one bit that all of us kept doing, as in we kept tabs on what everybody was up to after the course got done. And with him, we kept seeing that Braga B, then Braga, then Sporting, then... and he was rumoured to have joined these guys as well. There was some talks with PSG as well as Man City in the middle.
Yeah.
And then the
Liverpool, I think he met someone at Liverpool. They said he plays back three, so Liverpool.
Correct. One of those topics.
I think West Ham, he was supposed to replace Moyes, I think.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, he flew down, he met Sullivan.
Correct. I think there's some article that came out in the Athletic along those lines.
He didn't take that up.
So. He took up Man U, so now he's doing okay compared to what it was sometime back.
Weeks back. After all of this, you went back to coaching, right? With FCBU.
Yeah.
And I was following FCBU, of course, and you started off at A Division, if I'm not wrong, or was it
Super Division.
You went into I League 2.
Yeah.
You won that and...
no, we didn't win that.
Sorry, that was a COVID year.
COVID year, the year we qualified. And we did well in the Durand to reach the semi-finals in the first... We got a wild card entry because I think some other teams. But the whole, like I had mentioned, the course was designed to get a senior team job. And Som, who you know, like he was a good ambassador for me in terms of going and talking to the owners and telling them that... these are the things that you will get with him, because I've seen him coach at the junior level with BFC and this is what he was putting together. So he was a great ambassador in terms of promoting whatever football qualities I could bring to the club, to the brand, and took about, I think, 9 interviews to convince him that could be a good fit.
9 interviews, it's quite a lot.
No, it's good though. Like none of that honeymoon period and then you realize that you don't get along. Like a lot of those things were ironed over because there were a lot of things that I wanted to get right, purely in terms of having the right sort of staff, and never wanted to get into this saying that I'll do the SNC bit, I don't need a goalkeeping coach, I don't need any assistants, just take care of my wages and get me the players, I'll do the job for you. Like I wanted to go about it in as let's say fleshed out way as possible, and that also involved getting good people around me supporting the whole program. And 3 years were really memorable, I think, till the time we left, in terms of what we had started off with and what we had secured as let's say a project. As in, that's where I think we got some sort of attention and made some noise that these guys are serious about it. They are putting together good... maybe the results were whatever, a bit thin in terms of the I League 2 platform, but things like the work ethic, the intensity with which we played, as in, I don't think there were any games that we looked flat ever.
Right.
Like, at least like the intent and energy and bits, whatever we were in control of, those things were checked off consistently.
Right. And even the promoters of the club, I think he was the son-in-law of the promoter of Infosys, right?
Yeah,
Not
Gaurav
not not
Manchanda.
Rishi Sunak, but
No, no.
so this is another thing I want to ask you: has football and sport ownership now become, especially football, has it become very isolated to just billionaires and millionaires
In
who can
India,
yeah?
I don't think so.
But if you have to get to the top, like for example, if you have to get a team like BFC, if you have to build something in as per the blueprint of what, like fulfilling all licensing criteria, for example, having youth development, all of that put together, it almost seems like it's hard to sustain long period, like more than a decade or so, if you don't have deep pockets.
Yeah, it's almost impossible, but like the licensing bits also put a lot of strain and pressure on the clubs to function in a certain way. And if we go back to the old system where, like right now, it's a very Eurocentric approach, right? Like you're a club, you need to have your own setup, youth squads, a lot
Yeah.
of boxes that you need to check in line with what's happening in Europe. But those are all first world, let's say, sensibilities that we're trying to mimic over here. That they do it, so even we should do it. But large parts of it, from what I understand, many of these leading Asian countries, the clubs really don't have a aligned youth setup. You have a completely different youth system where it's neighborhood clubs. Some clubs that's only focusing on the youth players. They don't have a senior team to aspire
Yeah.
towards.
Yeah, like I think the entire Basque region, Bilbao, Sociedad, they all have that culture, right? For example, which is just purely youth driven, without any kind of. Even in Europe, there are models of that nature.
As in, yeah, but they're also multi-million-dollar setups. Like
Yeah.
Sociedad and running a club like Athletic Bilbao is 1,000 times more experience than running the entire league in India. Like their players themselves get like wages of 6 million a year and things like that. But
True.
only place where they save money is not spending in the transfer market because they're bringing through their own
Yeah.
and selling and then securing the money. It goes back into the systems, especially the whole Basque ecosystem. But India, it's not that mature right now to. Let's say we can do without it, but if we relax some sort of the expectation that we place on clubs, that if you're a first team, you only do that properly. Let's say I've got $50 and I've spent all of it on first team, no obligation and things to go down the youth ranks. And if I'm the only team in the region, for example, let's just say that region A, I'm the only big team in that region, the entire ecosystem will anyway be working towards playing for me. So a lot of times, I won't name the region and things, but like some of the bigger clubs, when we go and tell them, because we also are, let's say, we need to safeguard the whole licensing criteria, whether we believe in it or not, in terms of how complex it can get. Some of the clubs just tell us, why should we even run one youth team setup when every kid in this entire region wants to play for us once they grow old? They won't go to any other club but play for us. So whether they're playing for the Mohalla team or let's just say in some random team in the local league, end of the day, if they're good, they'll come and play for us. They'll find their way to us. We don't need to run a youth setup and things. These guys do a much better job of bringing the players through. And it's very difficult to argue with that. The minute you start telling them that no, you'll get fined, this is not really good and things, and this is how it should be. Their whole argument is that why should I even spend a rupee when the entire ecosystem is fulfilling our requirements for local players to come through.
Right.
So that way, if at all we relax a lot of things, then we'll get a far more diversified profile of club owners, not necessarily billionaires, but really passionate people who can bring in, let's say, political support to secure a free training ground, can secure support to ensure the players' accommodation is free. Somewhere or the other, they'll put money together to pay the players' wages and things. So, and you've had examples of those in the past, and maybe sometimes even now in the I-League. Teams like Aizawl FC and stuff isn't coming off solely of a pocket of one billionaire as such. A lot of people contribute towards the team success. Shillong Lajong, who do really well with a huge representation of local players. You have those models.
Right.
And then running a youth setup in certain parts of the country is dirt cheap. Like just the ground rentals, coach wages, all of that. So some of these clubs just do it because it's not so much of a burden. But in a tier 1 city, if you're saying that you need to rent the ground, pay coaches wages, do X, Y, and Z, it becomes a huge expense to even commit to something like that. And then it becomes the check the box thing.
Right.
Because if you don't do it, then there are consequences. So just in terms of how we sell a model, I think right now what you said could 9 out of 10 times mean that it has to be a person with deep pockets. Only then can you pull off this whole, let's say, dream or endeavor of having your own team. But all of these, this dead weight carrying you and pulling it off.
Right. Fast forward from there on, obviously you joined FSDL, worked with them. And then there's this very interesting project that you've been on, right? The thesis, the foundation to that was, again, incredible. In your true style, you mined out data that probably no one has noticed or probably not compiled together in that format. But it is such a universal truth in sport too. If you can just talk about that, like how did that start? How do you start collecting data, and then what manifested out of this?
I'd taken up the role with the FSDL as I was doing my pro license, and my thesis was what does India need to get right in creating a generation of players that has never been seen before, from the ages of 5 to 20, blah blah blah. And like the whole thesis was creating a generation of players, number one, that we can export and uplift the standard of football in India. And same bit in terms of where do the players come from overseas, what's the pathway of players and things. And obviously I started with Argentina because I'm a massive fan, and there I'd seen that basically it's just 3 or 4 regions that give you 80% of your players. Then got a bit curious about, is it the same in Brazil, is it the same in that, and then figured out in India it is far more concentrated than any of these other strongholds. So that became, like, let's just say, the anchor of the whole argument that we were pushing, that uh, right now we have certain regions giving us a bulk of our players, but in the international standing, Indian football isn't anywhere. Like, we barely scratch the surface in youth level football. Like, we start celebrating, let's say, tiny achievements as once in a lifetime accomplishment and things like that, whereas other countries are just chugging along and doing this on loop. Something like what Japan accomplishes year on year at the junior age groups, they're not batting an eyelid or patting themselves on the back. It's just the whole mechanism working. And the whole argument to pull this whole thing was, if we know the players are coming from here, what is it that we can do to improve the quality of players from these regions? Because right now, if they are giving us, let's say, I think it's not even 30, like 30, 32 districts out of 800 that give you more than 75% of your playing minutes. What do we do here to improve the quality of the output?
So there are 30 districts in the country, out of 800 districts among 30 states. 30 states, right? We have
28 or something.
28, sorry, 28,
Union territories.
right? And counting all of them will be probably more. But among all the states that we have in the country, just 30 districts are contributing to more than 70% of footballers who play for the national team. That's the
ISL and I League.
ISL and I League,
Yeah.
right? Just okay, not even the national team.
Far more concentrated if you just take national team platform, but that's not a good place to.
Yeah. Right. So again, comes back to that conversation we were having of pockets of culture which exist. So what are these districts? These 8?
So Kerala, it is largely North Kerala, Malappuram, Calicut, Wayanad, Kannur. Then Maharashtra is just Bombay and Thane. There's two things that are adjacent to each other.
Mumbai city or
Mumbai and Thane, as in Navi Mumbai and Bombay, they give you 80% of, 95% of the entire Maharashtra playing minutes. West Bengal, it is 3 districts. 50+% of all of Mizoram minutes come from Aizawl, but that's also where the population is concentrated. Manipur, the valley area, gives you more than 80% of minutes over there. Punjab, it is just 2 districts, Hoshiarpur and Gurdaspur, that give you a whole bulk of these minutes. And what we figured by large parts, I think I've mentioned it earlier also.
And Goa too, right?
Goa, yeah, Salset. Like Taluka level, Goa we could do it because the documentation is quite strong.
Right.
Like the digital birth certificates and all that. So it was very easy to go down to the taluk level rather than. And Goa is anyway 2 districts, South and North Goa. But to go down to the village level and things, we had the luxury of doing that with just. And that again tells you how concentrated it is. That just this tiny speck gives you a whole bunch of minutes from Goa.
Nothing in the north and central India?
Just Punjab. So Punjab in the north, that
and
Delhi is there in the top 30 thing, 30 districts, but the drop off is so immense from, let's say, district number 12, 13 in terms of minutes secured. The Chetri alone is enough to put Delhi on the map. Like his entire legacy, I think even after he retires, next 4-5 years, Delhi will feature up there. If you do a 10-year study, like season by season, it will reduce, but his contribution to putting Delhi as part of that start of top 30 districts is just based on, let's say, Chetri plus 4 other players, but Chetri secures 95% of Delhi minutes. So that way, I mean, that's how concentrated it is. And the focus is now on what we're trying to drive through is that we have to go into these districts and mimic whatever is happening at the experiential level. We're not talking about mimicking at having 3G pitches and Nike footballs and all of that. But players in, let's say, even parts of Africa are getting opportunities to engage in the game 8 to 10 hours per week, divided between free play and organized competition and X, Y, and Z. But it's bringing out the best in them because of how intense it is, how the sort of tempo it is unfolding at, what standards of expectation are being set in terms of physicality, technical ability, and all of that. Can we start mimicking that in our own way of doing it? Let's not copy them explicitly, saying that we'll do the Dutch method or we'll play the Basque way and things like that. But give these kids that experience in terms of being challenged. So that's the next challenge now in terms of going down there and actually pulling it off to the same scale that it unfolds in better parts of the world.
So the idea is now to set up leagues that give how many games in a year? 40?
So we've had the Naupang League running in Mizoram across in 4 districts, and these kids get 33 to 35 matches minimum per team per age group. So it's not even like the scale of games are quite high. And let's just take the model that we have in Aizawl alone. Like that's quite substantial. From 12 teams, we now increase it to 16 teams in every age group. But if we look at the whole theory of critical mass, that is, we are saying if any region, if they are serious about the game, 5 to 10% of their effective playing population in each age group is engaged in the sport in an organized manner. So that will mean right now we are barely tapping into our potential engagement levels in Mizoram in terms of, let's just take 5% of Aizawl and only 16 teams playing. There's possibility of 3 more leagues in Aizawl alone at the same scale. But due to whatever constraints and restrictions that are there, we can only give 16 teams across 5 age groups the sort of football experience that we keep talking about. But critical mass will mean like jaw-dropping numbers. I think in the report, if you just look at what's happening in places like Montevideo or Porto, population of 1.2 million and things, and they have 25,000 matches organized every year across various age groups. God knows how many number of players. I don't have it at the top of my head, but the numbers are shocking in terms of to what scale these people or populations are being engaged in the sport all through the year.
Right.
And that's what we should be aspiring towards in these regions rather than pan-India, extensive, expansive models. Like we just need to do this, get it right in few districts and should be enough.
But will that again trickle up to the top level? Because eventually when you sit down to select national team or state teams, I think there's so much politics also involved, right? Where I need a player from this part.
I mean, that's one bit that we are one huge part of the reporting with the AIFF also back then was this whole thing of district quotas. That is, let's just take Karnataka for example, at least from whatever it was conveyed to us and what we wrote in internal communications, that this year only our coaches' choice of players will only be 11. Beyond that, it will be the selectors who will select. And those 8 spots that are remaining in, let's just say, a sub-junior or junior thing, last year there were 3 boys from Mysore, so this year only 1, but 2 can come from Mangalore because last year there was only 1 from there, so we'll get 3. So they have a cyclical thing in terms of what districts are being represented in the state teams across various age groups. And
this is across the country?
I think so, like from what, because there's so much at stake purely in terms of that certificate guarantees you a scholarship in a respectable college because you get the sports quota thing. It opens up doors for you for government jobs, as in getting a junior sports championship title across any sport is a huge deal, especially for kids that it makes a huge difference for certain backgrounds, that just having that certificate in your hand and then opens so many doors. So you can't really blame them even in terms of pressure that is there in the hands of administrators. But at the other end, if you're asking, will it trickle down with all the politics that is involved, whatever ecosystem you're looking at has to be merit-based. That is, let's just say that if you're operating in a place like Manipur or Mizoram, and you're saying that, okay, this will eventually lead to a under 15 Mizoram team or Manipur team, within the project that you're managing, you have to convey that no player can be a part of the team unless they play 35 matches in the season that has just gone by. And then it is your job to produce minimum of 40 matches that particular season. That is, you can't get any recommendation of this kid who isn't part of any team walking in there and getting a spot or has played just 12 matches and there are 30 other boys ahead of him who've played far more, performed far better. So when it becomes transparent both quantitatively and qualitatively, then the whole system makes sense. And it has to go beyond just giving these number of matches, because minute the players have confidence that the pathway forward is transparent, all I need to do is be my best and the rest will take care of itself, then that's the confidence you need to give to the entire ecosystem. So it'll make sense if we get that part of it right, like take away the politics and corruption.
It's also very weird, right? I don't know if there are other examples of this in the world, but we have a state-run footballing ecosystem and then you have a parallel club-run footballing ecosystem as well. Both are linked with the AIFF because of the structure.
But it's the same everywhere.
Right? But for example, in cricket, we only have state because we don't have... and now with T20 IPL it's coming, but we didn't need it. You look at examples of maybe England or Europe, I don't know how it's structured, but I'm assuming clubs are primarily more important in those ecosystems because those are evolved.
No, but even there the regional FAs are...
So is there a Catalonian FA, for example?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
So there's a Porto FA, there's a Birmingham FA, there's a London FA, there's a Manchester FA, Liverpool FA that conduct the same courses like it's unfolding here. So they do the first 8 courses, the A license, B license, all of that.
But they don't take care of competition.
They do.
Okay, so what competition? Like, is it?
So just go to like the report that I put together. Also, I've given examples of the Porto FA and Catalonia FA, and within there are the main administrators of all football taking place in that region.
Got it.
So whatever you see over here is, and Japan has it, Korea has it as well. That is the regional FAs take care of.
I see.
So it isn't club centric apart from the club being a private entity, as in the league being a private entity.
Right.
Like the Premier League overseas. But below the Premier League, it is all this regional FAs or counties that take care of football over there.
I see. So but it's all linked to the main FA, for example.
Yeah, the governance of it is exactly the same. The way the responsibilities are sorted out, all of it is the same. But far less bureaucracy is what I'm thinking. Which is why like Catalonia FA is ridiculous in terms of number of teams, number of matches that they put together every season. Like that's wild. Right. And they're good at 4-5 sports: handball, basketball, cycling, tennis, so many other important sports over there. Over and above that, you have this whole football ecosystem, but it is regional FA driven all over the world.
Right. Another very important thing I want to talk to you about is problem of age cheating and age fraud, right? Invariably, I think a lot of people have done it in our country for various reasons. I remember being in school. My coach change my date of birth by 6 months, so I was eligible to play for something. But often at times this problem doesn't stem from kids itself. Kids obviously want to play, and then they're always asking ways that they can get involved. But it's always a parent, coach, someone who
always an adult,
right? Always an adult who sort of takes this method out. And I've heard stories of academies and coaches tell me that, oh, you know, if I don't do this, and we'll get thrashed very badly. It's bad for the image of our team. We'll get exposed and we can't then attract talent in the future, stuff like all that. And then you hear stories of Indian academies going abroad and playing overage kids or rather winning tournaments, and then later on you find out that they've played overage kids and stuff like that. All this comes out. But how do you solve for this? This starts with obviously an adult, and then if one does it and then other gets to know, then it's a plague, right? It just spreads through the system. And of course, there are international examples. We keep talking about African countries who win a lot of these under-19 World Cups. Under 17.
Under 19 it doesn't work.
Under-17 World Cups. And then after that, you don't see progression at the same standard. But where do we stand on this as a country? How do you solve this?
One fact that it is such a big problem is quite obvious, because like for the level at which it is being encouraged, like let's just say a 3-game tournament, they're leaning on overage talent to come through and deliver success. And that also comes because one is that we don't start early enough. That is, let's just say we have some sort of a registration system that brings the kids in, registers them, and then makes a permanent database where there's no escaping it unless you go through some colossal efforts to sort of completely go blank and then come back as someone else. We don't really have that. A lot of players enter the registration system at the ages of 13, 14. By then they would have undergone multiple cycles of manipulating their age, maybe altering one initial here or there in the name and then coming back as someone else. And the solve isn't, let's say, number one, it's not short term, and given how corrupt the country is and how easy it is to do, it's not going to happen anytime soon. Because the two sides of it is, one, it is really easy to pull off. Like if you want to change your age tomorrow, securing the paperwork and proving it within the sporting system that I'm 12 instead of 15 is very easy to do. Very easy to pull off, very easy to get away with. And the benefits far outweigh the punishment. So the punishment is you'll be banned for 6 games. For 1 year, this will happen, that will happen. That a lot of people are willing to take the risk for. Like it guarantees meaningful employment, let's say, a few years later in a government sector and things. So the dynamics that enable this are far stronger than anything that we can possibly fathom. Then we get into things like bone testing, we get into things like biometric reading, Aadhaar registration, this and that. But the mechanisms to curb the issue is so much more sophisticated, time consuming, resource heavy. Whereas to pull it off and get away with it is absolutely like zero effort. Doesn't cost you much either. Because every selection cycle that comes about, the announcement will come in, right? Like all players who are born 01, 2005 after need to show up at this ground. So whoever it is that is enabling this at, let's just say the documentation end is ready there. And he knows guaranteed 200 kids will come. He doesn't need to charge too much for it either. because then some other colleague of his might charge a little bit lesser and end up getting. So number one is, where do we attribute the blame? So we clearly know that the adults are involved, but who do we blame? Do we blame the coach or the guy who's actually sitting in those various offices and handing over a dummy certificate for these guys to pull it off? So I mean, the fact that we get found out eventually, that is maybe some success at the junior level and at senior level, like similar with the African countries, like they are multiple world champions at U17 level, but barely get out of the group stages or let's just say the round one of knockouts at the World Cups. Then it all goes away. Where did all that excellence go? So similarly with football, we see that, like the amount we progress in certain age groups and how it just plummets after a certain point in time. That could get solved if we give the kids, because it's pretty much allocating resources and support for someone who's 12 but is actually, let's say, 15 or 16 years old. That's down the drain then. Because as the body grows, to secure that support, to grow with that, your mentality needing to improve, it compounds over time. But if you're already grown up, it's pretty much like throwing money down a bottomless pit, right? Like you're not going to get the benefits of doing that, because the body is already grown and adapted to a certain level, and all they want is that certificate or that spot in the team that gives them that cred and stuff, but it doesn't lead to anything. Like it's
for a lot of them is also like they try to get government jobs, right? At the back of having played at some level or the other. So there's motivation to do that for
massive,
that as well, to get out of the poverty and stuff. But you're right, like you said, unless you have a system where you start tracking at a young age, it's very hard to sort of curb it later.
And see, like the bit that I told you earlier, that to be part of, let's say, the Mizoram or Manipur state team, you needed to have played 35 games that season. And if you break it down even further, you needed to have been part of the system at least no later than your 8th birthday or 7th birthday. The earlier you're in the system, the better. And then you need to incentivize all of these early registration. That is, if you're in the system from your 5th birthday onwards, we won't be conducting any bone density tests on you. You won't be subject to the sort of scrutiny that other players are. So the later you enter the system, the more scrutiny there is, more doubt there is and things. And earlier you enter, then you at least you know for a fact that these guys have been around and they've come through the system. So I think and that's the long-term solve. As in, there's nothing in the short term that you can possibly do to address this.
True. Keeping all the negatives aside, if you look at the positives now, what we have in the ecosystem, what are maybe a few things that stakeholders can do from your point of view, from player development point of view, right? I think if you just get player development right, I think a lot of other things will fall in place. What are maybe 1, 2, 3 things that probably top of your mind that we need to get right and need to get right in the long run?
1 or 2, 3 things that basically just start to give these kids an opportunity to experience and be involved in the game like any other part of the world. That is, stakeholders look beyond running that one academy or running that one team and come together to give, let's say, thousands and thousands of kids the opportunity to compete every week, support some sort of development platforms for coaches and adults involved to deliver a better football session or a better football environment or experience. Come together to make sure that these players are taken care of to the best extent possible. Come together to make sure that the best player, there is transparency, there is no corruption within the merit-based system, that the state teams are actually based on players who've secured so many minutes under their belt, and work backwards from that. Because like the only like if at all we sit across with these stakeholders, we keep telling them that like now there are a lot of these young guys around who are second generation club owners and things like that, and we keep telling them that you're at the exact same age your dad took over the club. But the rankings and X, Y, and Z are exactly the same as it was when you were a kid. Like from between your 40th birthday or your 38th birthday till your before your 50th birthday, you want to have a meaningful impact. The only way you can do it is to produce a better standard of players. And the only way of producing a better standard of players is you need to give them the same experiences that anyone else gets. Right now, let's just say the volume of games that our players get in the country is equal to going to school for 2 months of the year. But you want them to compete with the kid who's going to school, not missing a day, and then topping because all the support systems and things are there in place. And also getting them to, it doesn't need to be sophisticated. You don't need to do so much of, let's say, credit mongering that unless I'm the whole and soul person running the entire show, then I'm not going to be involved. Like there's this whole thing of getting a community of people involved as stakeholders to drive this whole thing and enable it. I feel that's the only thing that we should pursue, because it all boils down to quality of players. So once you start exporting to a more serious market, because the demand is there, as in the market doesn't shift. The market wants top quality players, and if it happens to be an Indian who will get so many eyeballs and stuff, that's marketing gold for these guys. I'm guessing they've tried so many times with MOUs and exposure trips and 3-month training stint with a top team and things, but it hasn't really worked because the supply that we have doesn't merit the demand. As in, they won't pay the wages or give them a contract at a serious club. But minute we meet that demand with serious players like Japan, it's, I think this year alone, it's about 450 players who are based outside of Japan securing professional contracts. We have, I think, about 3 or 4 of them, but 5th division Bolivia, 3rd division some other country and things. And then you start to question are they spending more to be there than actually earning and things? So I think the end goal is very clear. Meet the demands, produce top quality players. And you can't do that without, by taking any of these shortcuts of what we've just spoken about. It has to be intense and...
Right. Yeah. Great. Who's your team? Who do you support? Apart from Argentina?
And pretty much which team has got the most number of Argentine players at the club level, or there's an Argentine head coach.
So Atletico? Do they have the highest?
I think so, Simeone, right now.
Alvarez... DePaul is on loan, so I don't think it's him.
Then you have Molina is there.
Molina is there.
Then Chelsea, because Enzo is playing there.
Right,
I'll end up watching Liverpool games because McAllister is there.
So it's just through and through Argentina love.
Yeah, as in if they are involved, then you start hedging your bets, right, in terms of what's going to happen at the World Cup. So that's all.
You're hopeful? 26? Good team?
No.
It's still Lionel Scaloni, right?
Yeah, but I don't attribute any hope to the Argentine national team. Like, just sit there and hold my breath till the game's over and then decide.
It's very hard to motivate yourself to come and defend a World Cup. So
I don't think so. Like, not for them. So
I know, but
finding the motivation, I don't think is an issue. But the pressure.
But I think the team is better this time. I mean, Messi obviously has gotten older. But
no,
everybody
minus
else
him, whatever we've seen, especially the game against Brazil a few months back in the qualifiers, that was insane.
Yeah, it was.
Without Messi, with the show that they put on.
Yeah.
But again, let's just wait and watch. But
right.
Club-wise, I think as long as Guardiola was there at Barcelona, I don't think I missed a single game in that entire era.
Right. What are your thoughts on him?
Thoughts as in...
a lot of people now are changing their opinion, saying he's ruined football. Made it like chess. Because I was telling you, right, I went and watched his
you got bored, right? Man City Arsenal game.
Oh my god, because Arsenal had so much firepower, and then even Arteta plays such a defensive system. But then you're trailing since the 20th minute, and then all the way till the 85th. I walked out of the stadium at the 86th minute. 88th minute is when Martinelli scored. Eze gave that pass. So I saw all the reaction just I was outside. But I felt the game has become a lot like chess. Even the game I watched, Bologna Aston Villa in the Europa League this year. It was a very chess-like game where there were rehearsed moves, right? So, like Arsenal gets the ball, whoever gets the ball in the back line gives it to Declan Rice. He carries it. He sprays it to the left wing, right wing.
Patterns of play and things are one way of exercising.
Yeah, but I think it's become too much. Like when I was younger,
even if the opposite team is so organized, you need to look for that one.
Precisely. So the overall game has become too organized, I feel.
I think it's okay.
Yeah,
the tempo has gone up so much more.
Yeah, that's
technical quality is so much higher.
Absolutely. Athleticism, technical quality, all of that without shadow of a doubt. But when I was younger and watching, I always liked watching Premier League because it was just absolutely unexpected. Even then, there were teams who were defensive.
But by and large, we keep getting lost in the romanticism also because it's fast and quick and plus you're really not judging it for all of that. Like, what you end up holding over course of time is the feelings that you had. So you felt it was intense and things, but watch the same games again, you're not going to feel it.
Absolutely, that I agree.
Yeah,
I think it's nostalgia. The highlights are exciting.
No, but watch a Premier League game from 2000, when you started watching 2003, right? 2003, 4. Just put any game you want.
You're quite boring in between.
Yeah, you're not going to get...
Yeah, that's there. That I agree.
So that, in hindsight, like all of it, during our days, all that keeps coming in. But football right now, it's because of the coverage and things also, like you get, I think podcast is something I spend maximum time of my day with. Like you keep getting all of these and once you start seeing it confirmed on TV, like what's unfolding over there and it is exciting. I don't think it's boring or robotic to whatever, because people want the whole Riquelme, Aymar, that whole generation of players coming through, but then like guys like Musiala, you see De Bruyne, then what the Barcelona midfielders do, and it's a lot less frequent.
Yeah.
But when it happens, like the combination play that they put together, like working in tight spaces, like ability to find solutions in increasingly intense, less in time, less in space scenarios, Like that's something that you never saw back then.
Yeah,
As in,
absolutely.
the amount of time you enjoy on the ball,
Yeah.
let's say 15, 20 years back to what you're seeing right now is totally different sport. So
True. Is Guardiola still, according to you, the best coach active in world football today? Or do you have any other opinion?
not really. I mean, I was happy as long as he was at Barcelona, right? I think back then the team also was like insanely good.
Incredible.
So I think you couldn't help but become a fan. But it isn't like I've followed him per se in terms of this is the best coach and that's why I should be watching him. Like I was completely taken up by Simeone when 2013, 2014 time just because of the whole brand that he was representing and the style of play, like the number of yellow cards, red cards, all of that, like Diego Costa, Arda Turan, all of these guys, what they represented. Then the whole Bielsa thing as Leeds got promoted. So that built up a little bit of a wave in terms of what these coaches were about. De Zerbi when he was at Brighton, all that he represented. So like you keep getting all these coaches who get your attention. That's because the big coaches are talking about them.
True.
Like something Guardiola speaking a lot about De Zerbi, then you get curious about what he's talking about. Now Iraloa is picking up a lot of his. I mean, people are talking about the way he presses. And right now, it is so many of these ideas being adapted to different degrees by various coaches.
True.
Like you'll get one guy who's doing pressing really well, and there's other coaches I could learn a lot from it. Like this whole thing of Man City playing long balls now, because they've got Pep Linders from Liverpool coming in and being they're attributing it to that. But if in terms of your evolution, you realize this is the quickest way because you got the fastest guy in the world up front. And to break down lines and stuff, we don't need to pass the ball 300 times before we enter the final third.
Yeah.
But to define it as evolution and things like that, it's great now. As in, like, this year's Premier League is what you're talking about. Like, I think it's the most number of long balls being played, most least amount of time from box to box. So it is chaotic again.
So that game, the Arsenal City game, is I think Donnarumma's first game. So I went in saying, "Oh, finally I'm going to watch Pep's team play," and I was expecting
all of that.
And I was like, "What is happening?" And then I thought it was a one-off thing that he did because he was at Arsenal and they're defensively so strong. But then he's continued it. So it's very interesting to see how it's changing for him as well, where he's trying to bring an element of direct football or the old system of direct long balls and stuff like that. So it's exciting to see. I think it's natural evolution, right? I think there's that old saying, right? At least in our world of advertising, which is when everyone zigs, you must zag. So I think it's a little like that, where I think everyone's now copying him. So he himself is trying to
and like from the panelists as well, like if you listen to journalist-based podcasts like Guardian
Athletic.
and Times Football and Athletic, compared to player-led podcasts.
Like your Stick to
Football and Rest is Football and things. The journalist bits of it, they have a completely different take, but the ex-players, their whole bit is this has always been done. We had seen this happen in the mid-80s. We had seen this happen earlier. There's like, you're getting elements of the old game coming back. That's pretty much what I think Gary Lineker also had mentioned. There's nothing new in football. It goes hidden. People don't notice it. When you don't notice it, it goes, you think it's disappeared from the game. It was never there. But there are enough instances of what's happening today that has been happening from a long time. Obviously, the tempo and space, all that is reduced. But principles of it in terms of what a long ball does, the intent behind it is the same. That is, you speed up your attack, you become a lot more efficient. And now if you got guys like, I think the old goalkeeper at Man City who could hit it, 60, 70 yards accurately and get it to land at the winger's feet off a volley. Like that ability also, like the sheer technical ability to ping long balls and...
This is what I don't understand. If you really want to play that direct kind of accurate football, there's no better keeper than Ederson. So I don't know why he got Donnarumma in. Just boggles me.
I think there was a whole bunch of personal issues and X, Y, and Z, right?
Same. And even Donnarumma had issues at PSG, so I think it just worked out.
It worked out great for all of them.
Right. Great. Last question to you is, what's your all-time Argentina dream team?
The one that won the World Cup, like straight up.
But the three teams have won the World Cup, right? So you probably mix and match.
2022.
Really?
Yeah.
And bring Diego into it?
No, just make sure that you don't sub out Di Maria. After that, it broke down. But I won't change that.
Really? That's just that's your
level. I haven't really, like Maradona is purely, and I've consumed his content for hours, like as in whatever's out there on YouTube, the movie with Asif Kapadia and all of that. Read it. I don't think there's a single book about him that I haven't read. Various podcasts about people talking about him. Somebody who had done all that even before I was born and things to be that obsessed. But I mean, like just that experience, these guys finally winning it, especially what happened in...
You were there, right, for the final?
I won't forget it. So.
I was trying to fly down last. Like I got a sudden rush at the end the day before, and I couldn't find flight and ticket together. I was getting a ticket, but I wasn't getting the flight to get there. So I was like, fuck it, no point.
No, for
Yeah.
me,
Also, I'm not that big an Argentina fan. So
I made it to the semis, hoping whatever I thought is going to be one of those games that I'm going to go back in tears and stuff, and then I don't think I spent like 3 days on the phone just securing that ticket and going across. But yeah, it was top 3 days of my life by far.
Yeah, a lot of my friends who are Argentina fans were there.
And what a game, man! Like even for a neutral and stuff, I don't think you need to be a
that's the
France and Argentina fan to enjoy what happened.
Right till the end, that Kolo Muani chance, right till the end.
It was nuts.
That was incredible.
That'll be my next tattoo. That's safe.
Really? Yeah, but it's actually given Martinez a lot more credit than he was getting before that.
Man, he had a great World Cup. Like all through, it was nuts what he put together.
Yeah, and to think Arsenal sold him at one point to Villa.
No, but you can't, like, as in, had they not sold him, this and that.
But I think he was good. Even then, I remember.
No, but you need challenges, like a wake-up call. Like
Sure.
There's a great interview by his ex-goalkeeping coach. I forgot which club. Not the one at Aston Villa, but the one in between Arsenal and Aston Villa. And just the fact, like he said, it was the easiest player to motivate. Like this guy is just so driven. Like it's an unreal mentality that is there, and obviously the rejection of Arsenal and all that gave him a little bit of a kick that need to wake up and do something about it. But just his own process of planning his own targets, just being completely determined to make the day complete. Like what does he want to accomplish in a training session and all of that, and he pretty much defined him as a lunatic for both psychological reasons as well as like his work ethic and all of that. He's just a madman. So yeah, I mean, I don't think Arsenal, had they not this and that list, really goes too far in terms of explaining what he pulled off.
Fair.